Hello. Hello? Oh my gosh. Hi. It is so freaking rainy. Oh my gosh. Where are you guys? Oh, there you are. Hi. Let me get rid of that. And I think I'm gonna put you guys up here. Is that okay? Hello, welcome. Hi. Do you guys like it? Is it okay? How's my audio? Is my audio okay? Am I loud enough? Am I too loud? What do you guys think? It's pretty good? Okay. I'm glad. That's good. Hello. Hello. How are we all? Are you ready? Oh, my mic needs to be closer. Hold on. It's raining where you are. Nice. Okay. It's really hot. Oh no. Bloop. Bloop. Thank you so much for resubbing. I never realized your eyes are bioluminescent. Best way for an 8-month anniversary. Oh, happy 8 months. She's shiny. My bubbles are shiny. The fizz in my hair is shiny. And my eyes are shiny. Is this an ASMR? Unfortunately not. No. Today's a reading stream. I have some book options that we can read together. I think that'd be fun. What do you guys think? Would that be okay? I would love to get your guys' opinions on which one we should read. Hi, what happens to your hair under the rain? Oh my god. It disappears. It like slops off my head. If it's really rainy, of course. If it's like light sprinkling, then it like just makes my hair really watery. And because it's like being added to my hair, it's even more so like my hair grows. So I always like to stay away from the rain, which is why we're inside. Athena, thank you for following. Thank you. Thank you for following. Okay. Now, look, you might be able to tell, I've never done like a whispering or like ASMR type stream. This is a first timer event. So if my mic is funny or you can't really hear me or you want the rain turned up, please do let me know. Okay? No kitty ears. Sorry. Everything's turned off for today. Only because I couldn't figure out how to get the audio to not go off. I didn't know how to stop the audio without stopping the music too. So I thought it was best. I thought it was best to just turn it off. It's okay, Zayni. It's your first time in the Matthew recording booth. Audio is acting weird. Might just shut down all the redeems. Yeah. Yeah. I decided to just turn them all off. I was like, nah. You guys won't mind. You won't mind, won't you? Now, I'm very ready. Since it's reading time, grab some Matthew's Meemaw great reading glasses. Which ones are my Meemaw reading glasses? Hold on, I have to find them. Oh, fuck. Wait. What the fuck happened? Why are they all the way down there? Half glasses? Where are my glasses? I have to move them. Hold on, let me find them. Those ones? No. I want my Harry Potter glasses. Where are they? There they are. Okay. Let me just move them onto my head. How's that? Is that okay? How's that for glasses? I think that's okay. Yeah? Or do you guys prefer my regular glasses? Looking good? So those are... What are these ones? That's that. What about these ones? Do you prefer these ones? It doesn't really matter. It does to me. Ooh. Hold on. Dang it. That's better. There we go. How's that? Okay, we'll do these ones. Dang it, they're so off-center. Okay, that's whatever. Okay, so you guys, I need your guys' help, okay? We are choosing a book to read together. We're choosing a book to read together, okay? I have 3 options for you. Is Zayni having a phase? No, I just thought it'd be nice to read together, that's all. Okay. So, all 3 of them are murder books. Because we all know how I feel about murder stories and murder books and things like that. So, let me tell you what they are, okay? I think they're all murder books. Okay. The first one we have is called The Night Circus. Let me read the synopsis on the back. Are you ready? The circus arrives without warning. No announcements precede it. It is simply there when yesterday it was not. There's that one. Actually, I don't know if this is a murder book. I don't know, but it seems like a vibe. Okay. The second one is called Good Girls Die First. It starts, or this is the blurb, okay? The night began with blackmail. 8 o'clock, Port Grave Pier. Can you keep a secret? 10 teenagers lured into a derelict carnival, each one with a dark past they are determined to keep hidden. As they start to die, is it an unknown killer they need to fear, or each other? And then the third book is called The Thursday Murder Club. This is the blurb for it. In a peaceful retirement village, 4 unlikely friends meet up once a week to investigate unsolved murders. But when a brutal murder takes place on their very doorstep, the Thursday Murder Club find themselves in the middle of their first live case. Elizabeth, Joyce, Ibrahim, and Ron might be pushing 80, but they still have a few tricks left up their sleeves. Can our unorthodox but brilliant gang catch the killer before it's too late? So there are our 3 books that we can choose from. Which one would you guys like to read tonight? Do you have a certain type that you like? A certain one that tickles your fancy? Envelopes can be black. Apparently, you can get a lot of different colors. 3? 10 tickles?
Haha, very funny.
3? Okay. Maybe should we do a poll? I know you guys like polls. I'll write one up. Okay. There you go, you guys. There you go. The poll is now up. Everyone go and vote. Vote for which book you would like to read. Have a check, have a check. Go and vote, vote, vote. Here we go. So lost that I can't vote? You're lost in the sauce? In the rain. Do you guys like the rain? It's beautiful, huh? Do you need me to turn it up at all? You don't really like standing in the rain? Me either. Okay, the 3rd book one, which was, let me grab it. The Thursday Murder Club. I like the before part where the winds are crazy. Okay. So, shall we get stuck into it? Okay. The Thursday Murder Club. There's a little note before the actual book starts. It says, killing someone is easy. Hiding the body, now that's usually the hard part. Frostbite! Thank you for resubbing! You're so kind. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Hiding the body. Now that's usually the hard part. That's how you get caught. I was lucky enough to stumble upon the right place, though. The perfect place, really. I come back from time to time, just to make sure everything is still safe and sound. It always is, and I suppose it always will be. Sometimes I'll have a cigarette, which I know I shouldn't, but it's my only vice. Part 1. meet new people, and try new things. Well, let's start with Elizabeth, shall we? And see where that gets us. I knew who she was, of course. Everyone here knows Elizabeth. She has one of the 3 bed flats in Larkin Court. It's the one on the corner with the decking. Also, I was once on a quiz team with Stephen, who, for a number of reasons, is Elizabeth's 3rd husband. I was at lunch. This was 2 or 3 months ago. And it must have been a Monday, because it was shepherd's pie. Elizabeth said that she could see what I was eating, but wanted to ask me a question about knife wounds, if it wasn't inconvenient. I said, "Not at all. Of course, please." Or words to that effect. I don't always... excuse me. I won't always remember everything exactly. I might as well tell you that now. So she opened a manila folder, and I saw some typed sheets and the edges of what looked like old photographs. Then she was straight into it. Elizabeth asked me to imagine that a girl had been stabbed with a knife. I asked what sort of knife she had been stabbed with, and Elizabeth said, probably just a normal knife. John Lewis. She didn't say that, but that was what I pictured. Then she asked me to imagine this girl had been stabbed 3 or 4 times, just under the breastbone. In and out. In and out. Very nasty, but without severing an artery. She was fairly quiet about the whole thing, because people were eating, and she does have some boundaries. So there I was, imagining stab wounds, and Elizabeth asked me how long it would take for the girl to bleed to death. By the way, I realize I should have mentioned that I was a nurse for many years. Otherwise, none of this will make sense to you. Elizabeth knows everything. Anyway, that's why she was asking me. You must have wondered what I was going on about. I'll get the hang of this writing thing, I promise. I remember dabbing at my mouth before I answered, like you see on television sometimes. It makes you look cleverer. Try it. I asked what the girl had weighed. Elizabeth found the information in her folder, followed her fingers, and read out loud that the girl had been 46 kilos, which threw us both, because neither of us were sure what 46 kilos was in real money. Huh? In my head, I was thinking, it must be about 23 stone? 2 to 1 was my thinking. Even as I thought that, though, I suspected I was just getting mixed up with inches and centimeters. Elizabeth let me know the girl definitely wasn't 23 stone, as she had a picture of her corpse in the folder. She tapped the folder at me before turning her attention to the back of the room, and said, "Will someone ask Bernard what 46 kilos is?" Bernard always sits by himself on one of the smaller tables nearest the patio. It's table 9. Excuse me, it's table 8. You don't need to know that, but I will tell you a bit about Bernard. Bernard Caudle was very kind to me when I first arrived at Cooper's Chase. He brought me a climatics cutting and explained the recycling timetable. They had 4 different colored bins here. 4! Thanks to Bernard. I know that green is for glass, blue is for cardboard and paper. As for red and black, though, your guess is still as good as mine. I've seen all sorts as I've wandered about. Someone put a faxing machine in one. Bernard had been a professor, something in science, and had worked all around the world, including going to Dubai before anyone had heard of it. True to form, he was wearing a suit and tie to lunch, but was, nevertheless, reading the Daily Express. Mary from Ruskin Court, who was at the next table, got his attention and asked how much 46 kilos was when it was at home. Bernard nodded and called over to Elizabeth. 7 stone 3 and a bit. And that's Bernard for you. Elizabeth thanked him and said that sounded about right, and Bernard returned to his crossword. I looked up centimeters and inches afterwards, and at least I was right about that. Elizabeth went back to her question. How long would the girl stabbed with the kitchen knife have to live? I guessed that, unattended, she would probably die in around 45 minutes. Well, quite, Joyce, she said, and then had another question. What if the girl had medical assistance? Not a doctor, but someone who could patch up a wound. Someone who'd been in the army, perhaps. Someone like that. I've seen a lot of stab wounds in my time. My job wasn't all sprained ankles. So I said, well, she wouldn't die at all. Which she wouldn't. It wouldn't have been fun for her, but it would have been easy to patch up. Sorry, I lost my job. There it is. My job? I lost where I was. Elizabeth was nodding away and said that was precisely what she had been told by Ibrahim. Although I didn't know Ibrahim at the time. As I say, this was a couple of months ago. It hadn't seemed at all right to ask Elizabeth, and her view was that the boyfriend had killed her. I know this is still often the case. You read about it. I think before I moved in, I might have found this whole conversation unusual, but it's pretty on par for the course once you get to know everyone here. Last week, I met the man who invented mint choc chip ice cream, or so he tells it. I don't really have any way of checking. I was glad to have helped Elizabeth in my small way, so decided I might ask her a favor. I asked if there was any way I could take a look at the picture of the corpse, just out of professional interest. Elizabeth beamed, the way people around her beam when you ask to look at pictures of their grandchildren graduating. She slipped an A4 photocopy out of her folder and laid it face down in front of me and told me to keep it, as they all had copies. I told her that was very kind of her, and she said, not at all, but she wondered if she could ask me one final question. Of course, I said. Then she said, are you free on Thursdays? And that, believe it or not, was the first I had ever heard of Thursdays. Chapter 2. PC Donna de Freitas would like to have a gun. She would like to be chasing serial killers into abandoned warehouses, grimly getting the job done, despite a fresh bullet wound in her shoulder. Perhaps developing a taste for whiskey and having an affair with her partner. But for now, 26 years old and sitting down for lunch at 11:45 in the morning with 4 pensioners she has only just met, Donna understands that she will have to work her way up to all of that. And besides, she has to admit that the last hour or so has been rather fun. Donna has given her talk practical tips for home security many times. And today, there was the unusual audience of older people, blankets across the knees, free biscuits, and a few happy snoozers in the back. She gives the same advice each time. The absolute paramount importance of installing window locks, checking ID cards, and never giving out personal information to cold callers. More than anything, she's supposed to be a reassuring presence in a terrifying world. Donna understands that, and it also gets her out of both the station and paperwork, so she volunteers. Fairhaven Police Station is sleepier than Donna is used to. Today, however, she had found herself at Cooper's Chase Retirement Village. It seemed innocuous enough. Lush, untroubled, sedate, and on her drive in, she had spotted a nice pub for lunch on the way home. Hi, GT. Hello. Thank you for following. I hope you enjoy the book. Hi, guys. I'll take a quick pause to say hello. How's the sound of everything? Can you hear well? Is everything okay? Can you hear me okay? Are you having a good time? How you going? Okay. You're in heaven? Okay, good. You can hear me? You can hear me though? I don't know how quiet I need to be for the mic to pick up well. Maybe about there. Okay. Where was I? I first saw you on Instagram. Thought that if you get recommended for me, I'll drop by. Thanks, G. Thank you. Okay, you ready? Toka's falling asleep. Okay. Let me just backtrack a bit. I need to find where I was. It seemed innocuous enough. Lush, untroubled, sedate, and on her drive in, she spotted a nice pub for lunch on the way home. So getting serial killers and headlocks on speedboats would have to wait. Security, Donna had begun, though she was really thinking about whether she should get a tattoo. A dolphin on her lower back? Or would that be too much of a cliche? And would it be painful? Probably. But she was supposed to be a police officer, wasn't she? What do we mean when we say the word security? Well, I think that word means different things to different... A hand shot up in the front row, which was not normally how this went, but in for a penny. An immaculately dressed woman in her 80s. In her 80s, had a point to make. Dear, I think we're all hoping this won't be a talk just about window locks. The woman looked around her, picking up murmured support. A gentleman hemmed in by a walking frame in the second row was next. And no ID cards, please. We know about ID cards. Are you really from Gas Board? Or are you a burglar? We've got it, I promise. A free-for-all had commenced. It's not the Gas Board anymore, it's Centrica, said a man in a very good three-piece suit. The man sitting next to him, wearing shorts, flip-flops, and a West Ham United shirt, took this opportunity to stand up and stab a finger in no particular direction. It's thanks to Thatcher, that Abraham. We used to own it. Oh, do sit down, Ron, the smartly dressed woman had said. Then looked at Donna and added, sorry about Ron, with a slow shake of her head. The comments had continued to fly. Bye, G. And what criminal wouldn't be able to forge an ID document? I've got cataracts. You should show me a library card and you could show me a library card and I'd let you in. They don't even check the meter now. It's all on the web. It's on the cloud, dear. I'd welcome a burglar. Excuse me. I'd welcome a burglar. It'd be nice to have a visitor. There had been the briefest of lulls, and a tonal symphony of whistles began as some hearing aids were turned up, while the others were switched off. The woman in the front row had taken charge again. So, and I'm Elizabeth, by the way. No window locks, please, and no ID cards, and no need to tell us we mustn't give our PIN number to Nigerians over the phone. If I'm still allowed to say Nigerians. Donna de Frites had regrouped, but was aware she was no longer thinking about pub lunches or tattoos. Now she was thinking about riot training course back in the good old days in South London. Yeah, guys, please remember, don't spam things. This is just a relaxing stream to help people fall asleep. So I'd like to try and keep the screen as dark as possible, please. You can do 1 or 2 emotes, but don't spam. Okay? Okay. Hi, everyone. But I don't want to sleep. You don't have to sleep. But please be considerate of the other people here who maybe do want to sleep. Or the people watching the VOD later on, okay? Okay. Now, Donna was thinking about, the riot training course back in good old days, in South London. Well, what shall we talk about then? Donna had asked. I have to do at least 45 minutes, or I don't get the time off in lieu. Institutional sexism in the police force? Said Elizabeth. I'd like to talk about the illegal shooting of Mark Duggan, sanctioned by the state and... Oh, sit down, Ron. So it went on, enjoyably and agreeably, until the hour was up, whereupon Donna had been warmly thanked, shown pictures of grandchildren, and then invited to stay for lunch. And so here she is, picking out her salad in what the menu describes as a contemporary upscale restaurant. 11:45 is a little early for her to have lunch, but it wouldn't have been polite to refuse the invitation. She notes that her 4 hosts are not only tucking into full lunches, but have also cracked open a bottle of red wine. That really was wonderful, Donna, said Elizabeth. We enjoyed it tremendously. Elizabeth looks to Donna like the sort of teacher who terrifies you all year, but then gets you a grade A and cries when you leave. Perhaps it's just the tweed jacket. It was blinding, Donna, said Ron. Kek, thank you for resubbing. Thank you. Can I call you Donna, love? You can call me Donna, but maybe don't call me love, says Donna. Quite right, darling, agrees Ron. Noted. That story about the Ukrainian with the parking ticket and the chainsaw, though. You should... Oh, my goodness. Ooh. Oh, thank you for gifting a subby. Thank you. Okay, where were we? Okay. Noted. That story about the Ukrainian with the parking ticket and the chainsaw, though. You should do some after-dinner speaking. There's money in it. I know someone, if you'd like a number. The salad is delicious, thanks, Donna. And it's not often that she thinks that. I would have made a terrific heroin smuggler, I think. This was Ibrahim. Okay, thank you for the subby. Thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you. This was Ibrahim, who had earlier raised the point about Centrica. It's just logistics, isn't it? There's all the weighing too, which I would enjoy. Very precise. And they have machines to count money. All the mod cons. Have you ever captured a heroin dealer, PC de Frites? No, admits Donna. It's on my list, though. But I'm right that they have the machines and to count money. Excuse me. But I'm right that they have machines to count money? Asks Ibrahim. They do, yes, says Donna. Wonderful, says Ibrahim, and downs his glass of wine. We pour easily, says Elizabeth, also polishing off a glass. God, save us from window locks. WPC de Frites. It's just PC now, says Donna. I see, says Elizabeth, lips pursing. And what happens if I still choose to say WPC? Will there be a warrant for my arrest? No, but I'll think a bit less of you, says Donna. Because it's a really simple thing to do, and it's more respectful to me. Damn, checkmate, okay, says Elizabeth, and unpurses her lips. Thank you, says Donna. Guess how old I am, challenges Ibrahim. Donna hesitates. Ibrahim was in a nice suit, and he has great skin. He smells wonderful. A handkerchief is artfully folded in his breast pocket, hair thinning, but still there. No paunch, and just the one chin. And yet, underneath it all? Donna looks at Ibrahim's hands. Always the giveaway. 80? She ventures. She sees the wind depart Ibrahim's sails. Yes! Spot on! But I look younger. I look about 74. Manala, thank you for stopping. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Where was I? Yes, spot on. But I look younger. I look about 74. Everyone agrees. The secret is Pilates. Guys, calm down. Calm down. People are getting way too hyped in chat right now. Alright? This is a chill stream, okay? This is a vibe stream. What am I reading? We're reading The Thursday Murder Club. Let me update it. Oops. Okay. Okay. Bloop, thank you for all the subbies. Okay. Now everyone, this is a relaxing stream, so everyone sit back and relax, okay? Okay. And please try not to have conversations with individual people in chat. This area, the chat is for everyone to come in and interact with stream and stuff like that. Talk about the book that I'm reading, anything like that, okay? We want to make sure that it's an area that people feel like they can come and join in chat, okay? Okay. I appreciate your understanding. Thank you. And what's your story, Joyce? Asked Donna to the fourth member of the group. A small, white-haired woman in a lavender blouse and mauve cardigan. She is sitting very happily, taking it all in. Mouth closed, but eyes bright, like a quiet bird, constantly on the lookout for something sparkling in the sunshine. Me? Says Joyce. No story at all. I was a nurse, and then a mum, and then a nurse again. Nothing to see here, I'm afraid. Elizabeth gives a short snort. Don't be taken in by Joyce, PC de frites. She's a type who gets things done. I'm just organized, says Joyce. It's out of fashion, but if I say I'm going to do Zumba, I go to do Zumba. That's just me. My daughter is the interesting one in the family. She runs a hedge fund, if you know what that is. Not really, admits Donna. No, agrees Joyce. Zumba is before Pilates, says Ibrahim. I don't like to do both. It's counterintuitive to your major muscle groups. A question has been nagging at Donna's thoughts throughout lunch. So, if you don't mind me asking, I know you all live at Cooper's Chase, but how did the four of you become friends? Friends, Elizabeth says amused. Oh, we're not friends, dear. Ron is chuckling. Christ love. No, we're not friends. Do you need a top-up, Liz? Elizabeth nods and Ron pours. They're on a second bottle. It is 12.15. Oh, it's 12:15 p.m. Abraham agrees. I don't think friends is the word. We wouldn't choose to socialize. We have very different interests. I like Ron, I suppose, but he can be very difficult. Ron nods. I'm very difficult. And Elizabeth's manner is off-putting. Elizabeth nods. There it is, I'm afraid. I've always been an acquired taste since school. I like Joyce, I suppose. I think we all like Joyce, says Ibrahim. Ron and Elizabeth nod their heads in agreement. Thank you, I'm sure, says Joyce, chasing peas around her plate. Don't you think someone should invent flat peas? Donna tries to clear up her confusion. So, if you aren't friends, then what are you? Donna sees Joyce jump up. Excuse me. Donna sees Joyce look up and shake her head at the others. This unlikely gang. Well, says Joyce, firstly, we are friends. Of course, this slaughter just a little slow on catching on. And secondly, if it didn't say on your invitation, PC de frites, then it was my oversight. We're at the Thursday Murder Club. Elizabeth is going glassy-eyed with red wine. Ron is scratching at a West Ham tattoo on his neck, and Ibrahim is polishing an already polished cufflink. The restaurant is filling up around them, and Donna is not the first visitor to Cooper's Chase to think this wouldn't be the worst place to live. She would kill for a glass of wine and the afternoon off. Also, I swim every day, concludes Ibrahim. It keeps the skin tight. What is this place? Would you guys like me to announce when I get to a new chapter? Sure? Yeah? I just don't read books to people often, so I'd like to know. Okay. All right, chapter 3. If you were ever minded to take the A21 out of Fairhaven and head into the heart of the Kentish Weald, you will eventually pass an old phone box, still working, on a sharp left-hand bend. Continue for around 100 yards until you see the sign for Whitechurch, Abbott's Hatch, and Lentz Hill, and then take a right. Head through Lentz Hill, past the Blue Dragon and the little farm shop with the big egg outside, until you reach the small stone bridge over the Robertsmere. Officially, the Robertsmere is a river, but don't get confused and expect anything grand. Magic glasses. Oh, are they floating? Yes. Yeah. Take the single track right turn just past the bridge. You will think that you're headed the wrong way, but this is quicker than the way the official brochure takes you, and also picturesque if you like the dappled hedgerows. Eventually, the road widens out, and peeking between the tall trees, you will begin to see signs of life rising on the hilly land up to your left. Up ahead, you will see a tiny wood-clad bus stop. Also, still working. If one bus in either direction, a day counts as working. Wait, hold on. I'm reading this weird. Hold on. One sec. Hold on. Also still working. If one bus in either direction, a day counts as working. Just before you reach the bus stop, you will see the entrance sign for Cooper's Chase on your left. They began work on Cooper's Chase about 10 years ago, when the Catholic Church sold the land. The first residents, Ron for one, had moved in 3 years later. It was billed as Britain's first luxury retirement village, though according to Ibrahim, who has checked, it was actually the 7th. There are currently around 300 residents. You can't move here until you're over 65, and the White Rose delivery vans clink with wine and repeat prescriptions every time they pass over the cattle grid. Sorry. No adding? I don't believe it. Oh, no, that's okay. That's just responding a little bit. That's okay. Okay. Yeah, don't worry, Meb. We've got mods and stuff to take care of everything. Don't worry. The old convent dominates Cooper's Chase, with 3 modern residential developments spiraling out from this central point. For over 100 years, the convent was a hushed building, filled with the dry bustle of habits and the quiet certainty of prayers offered and answered. Tapping along its dark corridors, you would have found some women comfortable in their serenity, some women frightened of a speeding world, some women hiding, some women providing a vague, "Hi, Jessie! Hi, Jessie! Hello! Welcome in, everyone! Welcome, Raiders! Hello! Welcome to the rainy day reading stream! Hello! If you don't know who I am, hello! My name is ZayniPop. I'm a soda-haired VTuber, here to sweeten your life one sip at a time. Welcome in! I hope you enjoy. We're reading The Thursday Murder Club. How are you doing? You should get an automated shout out, but if not, let me shout you out. I hope your stream was good. Oh, thanks, Bloop. I'll also do this one. Never mind. It's not working for me. Hi, Autistic Toast. Hello. Hi, Pixel. Okay. Are we all ready? I was waiting for the auto one. Yeah, me too. It's been glitching out a bit. Okay. Are we ready? Ooh. There's an ad starting in 15 seconds. Okay. What I'll do, we're just gonna wait for everyone who doesn't have subs, okay? Okay. we're just gonna wait here. And I'm also going to mix it up. Because I forgot that that's set up to all of the updates and everything. So let's get this one set up. Okay. Hi, Plankton. How are you? Are you good? I got raided just as I raided you. Oh no! That's the worst. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Well, for anyone who's raided in, make sure to sit back, relax, enjoy the rain and the reading, okay? You miss Tubbs? Don't worry. He's sleeping here somewhere. CCC was really fun. Is that the game you were playing? Okay. Is everyone back? Thanks for doing this. Yeah. Oh, Zone Zero. I see. Heck yeah. Well, I'm glad you had fun. You got hit with the ads too. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's so unfortunate. Well, okay, let me redo this. For anyone who's raided in, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out. For now, let's sit back, relax, enjoy the beautiful rain sounds, and I'll keep reading to you, okay? Okay. Okay. I'm so happy you like my suggestion to do this. The reading stream, I'm just glad you guys are enjoying. Let's be real. Thank you for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. Okay. We ready? Let me get back into it. Where were we? Okay. I'll just backtrack a tiny bit. You have the best story voice. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Tapping along its dark corridors, you would have found some women comfortable in their serenity. Some women frightened of a speeding world. Some women hiding. Some women proving a vague, long-forgotten point. And some women taking joy in serving a higher purpose. You would have found single beds arranged in dorms, long, low tables for eating, a chapel so dark and quiet you would swear you heard God breathing. In short, you would find the Sisters of the Holy Church, an army which would never give you up, which would feed you and clothe you and continue to need and value you. All it required in return was a lifetime of devotion, and given there was always someone requiring that, given there will always be someone requiring that, there were always volunteers. And then, one day, you would take the short trip up the hill, through the tunnel of trees to the garden of eternal rest. The iron gates and low stone walls of the garden looking over the convent and the endless beauty of the Kentish high weald beyond. Your body in another single bed, under a simple stone, alongside the Sister Margarets and Sister Marys of the generation before you. If you had once had dreams, they could now play over the green hills, and if you had secrets, then they were kept safe within the four walls of the convent forever. Well, more accurately, 3 walls, as the west-facing side of the convent is now entirely glazed to accommodate the residents' swimming pool complex. It looks out over the bowling green and then further down to the visitors' car park, the permits for which are rationed to such an extent that the parking committee is the single most powerful cabal within Cooper's Chase. Beside the swimming pool and a large arthritis therapy pool, which looks like a jacuzzi, largely for the reason that it is a jacuzzi. Anyone given the grand tour by the owner, Ian Bentham, would be shown the sauna. Ian would always open the door a crack and say, "Blimey, it's a sauna in there?" That was Ian. Take the lift up to the recreation rooms next, the gym and the exercise studio, where residents would happily Zumba among the ghosts of the single beds. Then there's the jigsaw room for gentler activities and associations. There's the room for, there's the library and the lounge for the bigger and more controversial committee meetings. Or for football on the flat screen TV. Then down again to the ground floor, where the long, low tables of the convent refectory are now the contemporary upscale restaurant. Thanks, Bloop. I'm glad you're enjoying the rain and the reading. Oh, hello, Finn. Hi. Come say hello. Oh God, he's right up at the mic. Ah. Finny, come on, puppy. Turn around, sweets. Come on. There you go. Oh. Hi, Chai. Give me 1 second. I'm back, sorry. I needed to pop away for a moment. Okay. Let's keep reading. Where were we? Okay. At the very heart of the village, attached to the convent, is the original chapel. Its pale cream stucco exterior makes it look almost Mediterranean against the fierce Gothic blackness of the convent. The chapel remains intact and unchanged, one of the few convents insisted upon by the executors of the Sister of the Holy Church when they had sold out 10 years ago. The residents like to use the chapel. This is where the ghosts are, where the habits still bustle, and where the whispers have sunk into the stone. Fries, thank you for following. Hello. It is a place to make you feel part of something slower and something gentler. Ian Bentham is looking into contractual loopholes that might allow him to redevelop the chapel into 8 more flats. attached to the other side of the convent. The very reason for the convent is Willows. Now, Willows is now the nursing home for the village. It had been established by the sisters in 1841 as a voluntary hospital, charitably tending to the sick, and broken when no other option existed. In the latter part of the last century, it had become a care home, until legislations in the 1980s led to the doors finally closing. The convent then simply became a waiting room, and when the last nun passed away in 2005, the church wasted no time in cashing in and selling it as a job lot. The development sits in 12 acres of woodland and beautiful open hillside. There are 2 small lakes, one real and one created by Ian Bentham's builder, Tony Curran, and his gang. The many ducks and geese that also call Cooper's Chase home seem to much prefer the artificial one. There are still sheep farmed at the very top of the hill where the woodland breaks, and in the pastures by the lake is a herd of 20 llamas. Ian Bentham had bought two to look quirky in sale photos, and it had gotten out of hand, as these things do. That, in a nutshell, is what this place is. Chapter 4. Joyce. Oh, one moment.
Zayni, stay, Bubby. Come lie on the bed, Bubs. Come on. Come lie on the bed. Come on.
You hear a cat? Mm-hmm. It's Finn. One of my cats. Okay. I first kept a diary many years ago, but I've looked back at it, and I don't think it would be of any interest to you, unless you're interested in Hayward's health in the 1970s, which I'm going to assume you're not. That is no offense to either Hayward's Heath or the 1970s, both of which I enjoyed at the time. One moment. Hello. Okay. Zayni's really tech savvy. But a couple of days ago, after meeting Elizabeth, I went to my very first meeting of the Thursday Murder Club. And I've been thinking that perhaps it might be interesting to write about. Like, whoever wrote about that diary about Holmes and Watson. People love a murder, whatever they might say in public, so I will give it a go. I knew the Thursday Murder Club was going to be Elizabeth, Abraham, Arif, who lives in Woodsworth with a wraparound balcony, and Ron Ritchie. Yes, that Ron Ritchie. So that was something else exciting. Now I know him a bit better. The shine has worn off a little bit, but even so. Penny Gray used to be a part of it, but she is now in Willows. That's the nursing homes. Thinking about it now, I fitted right in. I suppose that there had been a vacancy, and I was the new Penny. I was nervous at the time, though. I remember that. I took along a nice bottle of wine, $8.99 to give you an idea. And as I walked in, the three of them were already there in the jigsaw room, laying out photographs on the table. Phineas had formed the Thursday Murder Club with Penny. Did I say Elizabeth? Hold on, let me just reread that just in case. Elizabeth had formed the Thursday Murder Club with Penny. Penny had been an inspector in the Kent Police for many years, and she would bring along the files of unsolved murder cases. She really wasn't supposed to have the files, but who was to know? After a certain age, you can pretty much do whatever takes your fancy. No one tells you off, except for doctors and your children. I'm not supposed to say that what Elizabeth used to do for a living, even though she does go on about herself at times. Suffice to say, though, that murders and investigations, and what have you, wouldn't be unfamiliar work to her. Elizabeth and Penny would go through every file, line by line, study every photograph, read every witness statement, just look for anything that had been missed. They didn't like to think that there were guilty people still happily going about their business, sitting in their gardens, doing a Sudoku, knowing they had got away with murder. Also, I think that Penny and Elizabeth just thoroughly enjoyed it. A few glasses of wine and a mystery. Very social, but also gory. It was good fun. They would meet every Thursday. That's how they came up with the name. It was Thursday because there was a 2-hour slot free in the jigsaw room between art history and conversational French. It was booked, and still is booked, under the name Japanese Opera. A discussion which ensured they were always left in peace. There were certain favors both of them could call upon for different reasons, and all sorts of people had been called in for a friendly chat over the years. Forensic officers, accountants and judges, tree surgeons, horse breeders, glass blowers. They'd all been to the jigsaw room. Whomever Elizabeth and Penny thought might help them with some query or other. Ibrahim had soon joined them. He used to play bridge with Penny and had helped them out once or twice with bits and bobs. He's a psychiatrist, or was a psychiatrist, or still is. I'm not quite sure. But when you first meet him, you can't see that at all. But once you get to know him, it makes a sort of sense. I would never have therapy because who wants to unravel all that knitting? Not worth the risk, thank you. My daughter Joanna has a therapist, although you'd be hard pushed to know why if you saw the size of her house. Either way, Ibrahim no longer plays bridge, and I think that's a shame. Ron had all but invited himself, which won't surprise you. He wasn't buying Japanese opera for a second, and walked into the jigsaw room one Thursday, wanting to know what was afoot. Elizabeth admires suspicion above all else, and invited Ron to flick through the file of a scoutmaster found burned to death in 1982 in Woodland, just off the A27. What's the guy's name? There's two. There's Ibrahim and there's Ron. Oh, the therapist? There's no name. There's no name of the therapist. Oh, the person who used to be... Oh, I'm sorry. The person who used to be a therapist is Ibrahim. We need a cozy emote? I know. I need to work on one. She soon spotted Ron's key strength, namely, he never believes a single word anyone ever tells him. Elizabeth now says that reading police files in the certain knowledge that the police are lying to you is surprisingly effective. TY, sorry. No, it's okay. No worries. It is called the jigsaw room, by the way, because this is where the bigger jigsaws are completed on a gently sloping wooden table in the center of the room. When I first walked in, there was a 2,000-piecer of Whitstable Harbor, missing a letterbox of sky. I once went to Whitstable, just for the day, but I couldn't really see what all the fuss was about. Once you've done the oysters, there's no real shopping to speak of. Anyway, Ibrahim had put a thick perspex screen over the jigsaw, and this is where he, Elizabeth, and Ron were laying out the autopsy photos of the poor girl. The one who Elizabeth thought had been killed by her boyfriend. This particular boyfriend was bitter at being invalidated out from the army. But there's always something, isn't there? We all have a sob story, but we don't all go around killing people. Elizabeth told me to shut the door behind me and come and take a look at some pictures. Ibrahim introduced himself, shook my hand, and told me there were biscuits. He explained that there were 2 layers, but they tried to finish the top layer before they started the bottom layer. I told him he was preaching to the converted there. Ron took my wine and put it by the biscuits. He nodded at the label and commented that it was a white. He then gave me a kiss on the cheek, which gave me pause for thought. I know you might think that a kiss on the cheek is normal, but for men in their 70s it isn't. The only men who kiss you on your cheek are son-in-laws or people like that. So I had Ron down as a quick worker right away. I found out that the famous trade union leader Ron Ritchie lived in a village when he and Penny's husband John nursed an injured fox back to health and called it Scargill. The story had featured in the village newspaper when I first arrived. Given that John had been a vet, and Ron as well. Given that John had been a vet and Ron was, well, Ron, I suspected that John had done the nursing, and Ron had simply been on naming duties. The newsletter, by the way, was called Cut to the Chase, which is a pun. We all crowded around the autopsy photos. The poor girl and that wound that should never have killed her, even back in those days. The boyfriend had bolted from Penny's squad car on the way to a police interview and hadn't been seen since. He had given Penny a belt for her troubles too. No surprises there. If you hit women, you hit women. Even if he hadn't run off, I suppose that he would have gotten away with it. I know you still read about these things all the time, but it was even worse back then. The Thursday Murder Club wasn't about to be magically... Excuse me. The Thursday Murder Club wasn't about to magically bring him to justice. I think everyone knew that. Penny and Elizabeth had solved all kinds of cases to their own satisfaction, but that was as far as they could go. So I suppose you could say that Penny and Elizabeth never really got their wish. All those murderers remained unpunished, all still out there, listening to the shipping forecast somewhere. They had all gotten away with it, as some people do, I'm afraid. The older you get, the more you have to come to terms with that. Anyway, that's just me being philosophical, which will get us nowhere. Last Thursday was the first time it was the four of us, Elizabeth, Ibrahim, Ron, and me. And as I say, it seemed very natural, as if I was completing their jigsaw again. I will leave the diary there for now. There's a big meeting in the village tomorrow. I help to put the chairs out for these sorts of things. I volunteer because A, it makes me look helpful, and B, it gives me first dibs at the refreshments. The meeting is a consultation about a new development at Cooper's Chase. Ian Bentham, the big boss, is coming to talk to us about it. I try to be honest where I can, so I hope you don't mind me saying I don't like him. He's all the things that can go wrong with a man if you leave him to his own devices. There's been a fearsome hoo-ha about the new development because they're chopping down trees and uprooting a graveyard, and there's a rumor of wind turbines. Ron is looking forward to causing a bit of trouble, and I'm looking forward to watching him do it. From now on, I promise to try and write something every day. I will keep my fingers crossed that something happens. Chapter 5. The White Rose in Tunbridge Wells has a cafe. Ian Bentham parks his Range Rover in the last empty disabled bay outside. Not because he's disabled, but because it's nearest to the door. What an asshole. What an asshole. Sorry, I forgot this is like an ASMR stream. Let me know if I'm peaking the mic or I'm being too loud. Walking in, he spots Bogdan by the window. Ian owes Bogdan $4,000. He's been stalling for a while, in the hope that Bogdan is thrown out of the country. But thus far, no luck. Anyway, he now has a real job for him, so it's all worked out okay. He gives the Pole a wave and approaches the counter. He scans the chalkboard, looking for coffee. Is all your coffee fair trade? Yes, all fair trade, smiles the young woman serving. Shame, says Ian. He doesn't want to pay an extra 15 pence to help someone he'll never meet in a country he'll never go to. Cup of tea, please. Almond milk. Bogdan isn't Ian's biggest worry that day. If he ends up having to pay him, then so be it. Ian's biggest worry is being killed by Tony Curran. Ian takes his tea over the table, spotting anyone over 60 as he goes. Over 60 and with White Rose money? Give them 10 years, he thinks. He wishes he'd bought some brochures. Ian will deal with Tony Curran as and when, but right now he has to deal with Bogdan. The good news is that Bogdan doesn't want to kill him. Ian sits down. What's all this about $2,000, Bogdan? Ian asks. Bogdan is drinking from a 2-liter bottle of lilt? Of lilt he has smuggled in. 4,000. It's pretty cheap to retile a swimming pool. I don't know if you know about that. Only cheap if you do a good job, Bogdan says. Oh, excuse me. Only cheap if you do a good job, Bogdan, says Ian. The grouting's discolored. Look, I asked for coral white. Ian takes out his phone, scrolls to a photo of his new pool, and shows it to Bogdan. No, that is a filter. Let's take off the filter. Bogdan presses a button, and the image immediately brightens. Coral white. You know it. Ian nods. Worth a try, though. Sometimes you have to know when to pay up. Ian takes an envelope out of his pocket. All right, Bogdan. Fair is fair. Here's $3,000. That do you? Bogdan looks wary. $3,000. Sure. Ian hands it over. It's actually $2,800, but that's near enough between friends. Now, I wanted to ask you something. Sure, Bogdan says, pocketing the money. You seem like a bright lad, Bogdan. Bogdan shrugs. Well, I speak fluent Polish. Whenever I ask you to do something, it gets done. And it's done pretty well and pretty cheap, says Ian. Thank you, says Bogdan. So I'm just wondering, are you ready for something bigger, you think? Sure, says Bogdan. A lot bigger, though, says Ian. Sure, says Bogdan. Big is the same as small. There's just more of it. Good lad, says Ian, and drains the last of his tea. I'm on my way to fire Tony Curran, and I need someone to step up and take his place. You fancy that? Bogdan gives a low whistle. Too much for you? Asks Ian. Bogdan shakes his head. No, not too much for me. I can do the job. I just think that if you fire Tony, maybe he kills you. Ian nods. I know, but you let me worry about that. And tomorrow, the job's all yours. If you're alive, says Bogdan. Time to go. Ian shakes Bogdan's hand and turns his mind to telling Tony Curran the bad news. There's a consultation meeting down at Cooper's Chase, and he has to listen to what all the old people have to say. Nod politely, wear a tie, call them by their first names. People lap up that sort of thing. He invited Tony along so that he can fire him straight afterwards, out in the open air with witnesses nearby. There's a 10% chance that Tony will kill him on the spot, but that means that there's a 90% chance that he won't, and given how much money it will make Ian, he's comfortable with those odds. Risk and reward. As Ian gets outside, he hears beeping and sees a woman on a mobility scooter furiously pointing at his Range Rover with a cane. I was their first love, thinks Ian as he steps into the car. What's wrong with some people? As he drives, Ian listens to a motivational audiobook called Kill or Be Killed, using the lessons of the battlefield in the boardroom. Apparently, it was written by someone in the Israeli Special Forces, and it had become recommended to him by one of the personal trainers at the Virgin Active in Tunbridge Wells. Ian isn't certain if the personal trainer himself is Israeli, but he looks like he's from their whereabouts. As the midday sun fails to force its way through the illegally tinted windows of the Range Rover, Ian starts to think about Tony Curran again. They've been very good for each other over the years, Ian and Tony. Bong, thanks for following. Ian would buy up tattered old houses, big ones. Tony would gut them out, divide them up, put in ramps and handrails, and on they'd go to the next one. The care home business boomed, and Ian built his fortune. Hi, Misaku. Hello, you look cute. Thank you. He kept a few, sold a few, he bought a few more. Ian takes a smoothie from the Range Rover's icebox. The icebox had not come as standard. A mechanic in Faversham had fitted it for him while he was gold-plating the glove box. It is Ian's regular smoothie: a punnet of raspberries, a fistful of spinach, Icelandic yogurt, Finnish if they're out of Icelandic, spirulina, wheatgrass, acerola, oh my god, what are these words? Acerola, cherry powder, chlorella, kelp, acai extract, cocoa nibs, zinc, beetroot essence, chia seeds, mango zest, and ginger. It was his own invention, and he calls it Keep It Simple. He checks his watch. About 10 minutes until he gets to Cooper's Chase. Get the meeting done, then break the news to Tony. This morning, he had Googled stab-proof vests, but the same-day delivery option hadn't been available. Amazon Prime? They must think he's a mug. He's sure it'll be fine, though, and great news that Bogdan's on board to take over. A seamless transition, and cheaper, of course, which is the whole point. Ian had worked out very early on that he needed to make his business upmarket if he wanted to make real money. The worst thing was when clients died. There was admin, rooms left earning nothing as new clients were found, and worst of all, you'd have to deal with the families. Now, the richer a client was, by the large and longer... Now, the richer a client was, by and large the longer they would live. Sorry, sometimes the way this is read, my brain can't figure out how to say it. So my apologies. Was by the large and longer. Wait, let me find it. No, it's now, comma, the richer and client was, comma, by and large, the longer they would live. It's weird. It's weird. Anyway. Your feet are numb. Oh no. It's a murder book, Zayni. Bye, man. Hi, Ryu. Hello. How are you? Hello, hello. You saw a video of me singing? It's another way of saying for the most part. Yeah, but like, I hope my reading's okay. I don't know. This is my first time reading it, and I hope it makes sense. Is everything I'm saying making sense? Sorry if it isn't. I'm okay. How about you? I'm good. I'm good. You're doing great, God. Thanks. You just got here? Okay. I hope everything's like making sense, you know? Because as much as I'm kind of taking it in at the same time, all I can hear is the rain, which is wonderful. But I end up reading and then like not taking it in. Okay. Let me look. Sorry, one sec. I feel like I've just missed a whole part of the book. It's perfect like you. Aw. Thank you. It makes sense? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. I'm just gonna start from a little bit before because I've lost where I was. I've lost where I was. So I'm just gonna start a bit back, okay? Okay. Oh, am I fucking dumb? Never mind. Okay, now, the richer a client was, by and large, the longer they would live. Also, the richer they were, the less often the family would visit, and as they tended to live in London or New York or Santiago. So Ian moved upstate, transforming his company, Autumn Sunset Care Homes, into home of home independent living, concentrating on fewer, bigger properties. Tony Curran hadn't blinked an eye. What Tony didn't know, he would quickly learn, and no wet room, electronic key card, or communal barbecue pit could face him. It seemed a shame to let him go, really, but there it was. Lyron, thank you for following. Okay. Ian passes the wooden bus stop on his right and turns into the entrance of Cooper's Chase. As so often, he follows a delivery van over the cattle grid and is stuck behind it all the way up the long driveway. Taking in the view on the way, he shakes his head. So many llamas. You live and learn. Ian parks up and makes sure his parking permit is correctly and prominently displayed on the left-hand side of his windscreen, with permit number and expiration date clearly showing. Ian has been in all sorts of scrapes with all sorts of authorities over the years, and the only two that have ever truly ratted on him are the Russian Import Tax Investigation Authority and the Cooper's Chase Parking Committee. Worth it, though. Whatever money he had made before, Cooper's Chase had been in another league entirely. Ian and Tony both knew it. A waterfall of money, which of course was the source of today's problem. Cooper's Chase, 12 acres of beautiful countryside with permission to build up to 400 retirement flats. Nothing there but an empty convent and someone's sheep up on a hill. An old friend of his had bought the land off of a priest a few years ago, then suddenly needed some quick cash to fight off extradition proceedings due to a misunderstanding. Ian did the sums and realized that this was a leap worth taking. But Tony had done some sums too, and decided to make a leap of his own, which is why Tony Curran now owned 25% of everything that he had built on Cooper's Chase. Ian had felt compelled to agree to the terms because Tony had never been anything but loyal to him, and also because Tony had made it very clear that he would break both of Ian's arms if he refused. Ian had seen Tony break people's arms before, and so they were now partners. Not for long, though. Surely Tony knew this wouldn't last. Anyone can build a luxury apartment, really. Strip to the waist, listen to Magic FM, dig out some foundations, or shout at a bricklayer. Easy work. But not everyone has a vision to oversee someone building luxury apartments. With the new development about to start, what better time for Tony to learn his true value? Ian Bentham feels emboldened. Kill or be killed. Ian gets out of the car. As he blinks into the sudden glare of the sun, he just catches the aftertaste of beetroot essence that was once one of the key obstacles to him launching Keep It Simple as a commercial proposition. He could leave the beetroot essence out, but it was essential to pancreatic health. Sunglasses on, and so to business. Ian is not planning on dying today. Bye, Toast! Bye-bye! You almost dozed off? Why are we talking about money? Twice? I almost made you fall asleep twice. Okay. Ooh. Everyone, take a moment to stretch, okay? Here's a crack. There you go. How was that? Excuse me. And a reminder to everyone to take a sip of water. Okay. Chapter 6. Ron Ritchie is, and so often, having none of it. He is jabbing a practiced finger at a copy of his lease. He knows it looks good. It always does. But Ron can feel his finger shaking and the lease shaking. He waves the lease in the air to hide the shakes. His voice has lost none of its power, though. Now here's a quote, and it's your words, Mr. Ventham, not my words. Cooper's Chase Holding Investments reserves the right to develop further residential possibilities on the site in consultation with current residents. Hi, Ultra. Ron's big frame hints at the physical power he must once have had. Excuse me. Ron's big frame hints at the physical power he must have once had. The chassis is all still there, like a bull-nosed truck rusting in a field. His face, wide and open, is ready at a second's notice to be outraged or incredulous, or whatever else might be required. Whatever might help. Yes, we're on chapter 6. Yep. That's what this is, said Ian Ventham, as if talking to a child. This is the Wow, I can't read. This is the consultation meeting. You're the resident. Consult all you'd like for the next 20 minutes. Ventham sits at a trestle table in the front of the residence lounge. He is teak-tanned, relaxed, and has his sunglasses pushed up over his 1980s catalog model hair. He's wearing an expensive polo shirt and a watch so large it might as well be a clock. He looks like he smells great, but you wouldn't really want to get close enough to find out for certain. Ventham is flanked by a woman around 15 years his junior and a tattooed man in a sleeveless vest scrolling through his phone. The woman is a development architect. The tattooed man is Tony Curran. Ron has seen Curran around and heard about him too. Abraham is writing down every word that's said as Ron continues to jab in Ventham's direction. I'm not falling for that old bull, Ventham. This isn't a consultation, it's an ambush. Joyce decides to chirp in. You tell him, Ron. Ron fully intends to. Thanks, Joyce. You're calling it the Woodlands, even though you're cutting down all the trees. That's rich, old son. You've got your nice little computer pictures all done up, sun shining, fluffy clouds, little ducks swimming on ponds. You can't prove anything with computers, son. We wanted to see a proper scale model, with model trees and little people. This gets a ripple of applause. A lot of people had wanted to see a scale model, but according to Ian Ventham, it wasn't the done thing these days. Ron continues. And you've deliberately chosen, a woman architect, so I wouldn't be allowed to shout. You are shouting though, Ron, says Elizabeth, who's 2 seats away reading a newspaper. Don't you tell me when I'm shouting, Elizabeth, shouts Ron. This geezer'll know when I'm shouting. Look at him, dressed up like Tony Blair. Why don't you bomb the Oh my God. Whoa. That's so intense. Why don't you bomb the Iraqis while you're at it, Bentham? Good line, thinks Ron, as Ibrahim dutifully writes down for the record. Good line. Oh, excuse me. Back in the days when he was in the papers, they called him Red Ron, though everyone was Red something those days. Ron's picture was rarely in the papers without the captions, "Talks between the two sides collapsed late last night." A veteran of picket lines and police cells, of blacklegs, blacklists, and bust-ups, of slowdowns and sit-ins, of wildcats and walkouts. Ron had been there, warming his hands over a brazier with the old gang in British Leyland. Ron had seen firsthand the demise of the dockers. Ron had picketed wapping as he witnessed the victory of Rupert Murdoch and the collapse of the printers. Ron had led the Kent miners up the A1 and had arrested the Orgreave as the final resistance of the coal industry was crushed. In fact, the man less what's this word? Hold on. Indefatigable than Ron might have considered himself a jinx. But that's the fate of the underdog, and Ron simply loved to be the underdog. If he ever found himself in a situation where he wasn't the underdog, he would twist and turn and shake that situation until he had convinced everyone that he was. But Ron had always practiced what he had preached. He had always quietly helped anyone who needed a leg up, needed a few extra quid at Christmas, needed a suit or a solicitor for court. Anyone who, for any reason, had needed a champion had always been safe in Ron's tattooed arms. The tattoos are fading now, the hands are shaking, but the fire still burns. You know where you can shove this leash, don't you, Bentham? Feel free to enlighten me, says Ian Bentham. Ron then starts to make a point about David Cameron and the EU referendum, but loses his thread. Ibrahim places a hand on his elbow. Ron nods. Ron nods the nod of a man whose work here is done, and he sits, knees crackling like gunshots. He's happy, and he notices his shakes have stopped, just for the moment. Back in the fight, there was nothing like it. Chapter 7. As Father Matthew McKee slips in at the back of the lounge, a large man in a West Ham shirt is shouting about Tony Blair. There is a big turnout as he had hoped. That's useful. Plenty of objections to the Woodlands development. There had been no buffet service on the train from Bexhill, so he was glad to see that there were biscuits. He grabs a handful when no one is looking, takes a blue plastic seat in the back row, and settles himself in. The man in the tightly fitted football top is running out of steam now, and as he sits down, other hands go up. Hopefully, this was a wasted trip, but it is far better to be safe than sorry. Father Mackey is aware that he is nervous. He adjusts his dog collar, runs a hand through his shock of snowy white hair, and dips into his pockets for a shortbread finger. If someone doesn't ask about the cemetery, perhaps he should. Just be brave. Remember, he has a job to do. How peculiar to be in this room. He shivers. Probably just cold. Oh. Chapter 8. This book is going really fast. Oh my god. We're not even a quarter way through the book. The consultation over, Ron is sitting with Joyce beside the bowling green, cold beers glinting in the sunlight. He is currently being distracted by a retired one-armed jeweler from Ruskin Court called Dennis Edmonds. Dennis, to whom Ron had never spoken before, wants to congratulate Ron on the very salient points he made during the consultation meeting. Thought-provoking, Ron. Thought-provoking. Plenty to chew on there. Ron thanks Dennis for his kind words and waits for the move that he knows is coming. The move that always comes. "And this must be your son?" says Dennis, running towards Jason Ritchie, also cradling a beer. "The champ!" Jason smiles and nods, as polite as always. Dennis extends his arm. "Dennis, I'm a friend of your dad's." Jason shakes the man's hand. "Jason, how do you do, Dennis?" Dennis stares for a beat, waiting for Jason to start a conversation, then nods enthusiastically. "Well, a pleasure to meet you. I'm a huge fan. Seen all your fights. We'll see you soon again, I hope." "Night, Ultra. Thank you for coming in." "Bye, Tugnet." Jason nods politely again, and Dennis ambles off, forgetting even to pretend to say goodbye to Ron. Father and son. Well used to these interruptions. Resume their conversations with Joyce. "Yeah, it's called Famous Family Trees," says Jason. "They've researched the family history, and they want to take me around various places. Tell me a bit about, family history. Great Granny's... Excuse me? Great Granny's a prostitute and all that." "What?" "Wait, what?" "I ain't seen it," said Ron. "What is it? BBC?" "It's ITV. It's really very good, Ron," says Joyce. "Granny's a what? I know, right?" I took a moment to read it because I was like, maybe I'm reading it wrong. And I'm not. She's getting freaky. "It's really very good, Ron," said Joyce. "I saw one recently. Did you see it, Jason? With the actor? He's the doctor from Holby City, but I've seen him in Poirot." "I didn't see it, Joyce," says Jason. "It was very interesting. His grandfather, it turns out, had murdered his lover. A gay lover as well. His face was a picture. Oh, you should do it, Jason," Joyce claps. "Imagine if Ron had a gay granddad. I'd enjoy that." Jason nods. "They'd want to talk to you too, Dad. On camera. They asked if you'd be up for it, and I told them good luck shutting you up." Ron laughs. But are you really going... But are you really doing that celebrity ice dance thing as well?" "Oh, I thought it might be fun." "Oh, I agree," says Joyce, finishing her beer and reaching for another. "You're doing a lot at the moment, son," says Ron. "Joyce said she saw you on MasterChef." Jason shrugs. "You're right, Dad. I should get back to boxing." "I can't believe you never made me a macaroon before, Jason," says Joyce. Ron knocks back some of his beer, then motions over to his left with the bottle. "Over by the BMW, Jace. Don't look now. That's Bentham, the one I was telling you about. I can run rings around him. Didn't I, Joyce?" "He didn't know if you were coming or going, Ron," agrees Joyce. Jason leans back and stretches, a casual look to his left as he does so. Joyce moves her chair so she can get a better look. Or a better view. I thought this was about murders. Yeah, it's setting up the beginning of the story. We're not even a quarter way through it. "Yeah, nice and subtle, Joyce," says Ron. "That's Curran with him, Jace, the builder. You ever come across him in town?" "Once or twice," says Jason. Ron looks over again. The conversation between the men looks intense, talking fast and low. Aggressive hands. Oh, hands aggressive and defensive, but contained. They're having a little Barney, you think? He asks. Jason sips his beer and scans across to the car park again, taking the men in. They're like a couple out on a date, pretending they're not having an argument, says Joyce. In a Pizza Express. You've nailed it there, Joyce, agrees Jason, turning back to his granddad and finishing his beer. Game of snooker this afternoon, son? Says Ron. Or are you shooting off? Love to, Dad, but I've got a little errand. Anything I can help with? Jason shakes his head. Boring one. It won't take long. He stands and stretches. You haven't had any journalists ringing you up today, have you? Should I have? Asks Ron. Something up? Nah, you know journalists. But no calls, no mail, or nothing? I had a catalog for walk-in baths, said Ron. You want to tell me why you're asking? You know me, Dad. They're always after something. Ooh, how exciting, says Joyce. See you both, says Jason. Don't get drunk and smash the place up. Jason leaves. Joyce turns her face to the sun and closes her eyes. Well, isn't this lovely, Ron? I never knew I liked beer. Imagine if I'd died at 70. I would never have known. Cheers to that, Joyce, says Ron, and polishes off his drink. What do you reckon's up with Jason? Probably a woman, says Joyce. You know what we're like. Ron nods. Probably, yeah. He watches his son depart into the distance. He's worried. But then, there's never been a day with Jason, whether in the ring or out, when Ron wasn't worried. Chapter 9. I'd be worried if we were over like a fifth way through with this little murder talk. Yeah. What's the age demographic? In the Benin gang, there were 5 gay grandfathers. Just the talk of some murder? Well, apparently one's supposed to happen on their doorstep. But, like, apparently a lot of people say that this book is, like, really good. So I don't know. I don't know what the age demographic is, though. Someone should look it up. Night, Slick. Have a good sleep. Okay. Age demographic is 1 to 500. Maybe like 16 or 18 to 500. The consultation went well. Ian Ventham is no longer worried about the woodlands. It's a done deal. The loud guy from the meeting? He'd met this type before. Let him blow himself out. He's also seen a priest in the back of the room. What was that? The cemetery, he guessed. But it was all above board. He had all the permits. Let them try and stop him. And sacking Tony Curran? Well, he hadn't been happy, but he hadn't killed him either. Advantage to Ian. So Ian Ventham is already thinking ahead. After the woodlands is set up and running, there will be another final phase of the development, Hillcrest. He had taken the 5 minutes up a rough track from Cooper's Chase and is now sitting in the country kitchen of Karen Playfair. Her father, Gordon Ramsay, of course. It's getting made into a Netflix thing, is it? What, this book? That's awesome. I keep zoning out, and then random stuff makes me go, the what now? Her father, Gordon, owns the farmland at the top of the hill, adjoining Cooper's Chase, and he seems in no mood to sell. No matter, Ian has his ways. I'm afraid nothing has changed, Ian, says Karen Playfair. My dad won't sell, and I can't make him. No. Oh no, I hear you, says Ian. More money. No, I think, says Karen, and I think you know this already, I think he just doesn't like you. Gordon Playfair had taken one look at Ian Bentham and disappeared upstairs. Ian could hear him stomping about, proving whatever point he was proving. Who cared? Sometimes people didn't like Ian. He has never quite worked out why, but over the years has learned to live with it. Certainly, it was their problem. Gordon Playfair was just another in a long line of people who didn't like him, who didn't get him. But listen, leave it with me, said Karen. I'll find a way. It'll work for everyone. Karen Playfair gets him. He has been talking her through the sort of money she could expect if she persuades her dad to sell up. Her sister and brother-in-law have their own businesses, organic raisins in Brighton, and Ian had already tried this line on them and failed. Karen Playfair is a much better bet. She lives alone in a cottage on the land, and she works in it. Oh, in IT. She works in IT, which you can tell just by looking at her. She's wearing makeup, but in a subtle, understated way that Ian honestly can't see the point of. Cool. That's cool, Poe. Ian wonders exactly when Karen had given up on life and started wearing trainers and long baggy jumpers. Oh, what an asshole. And you think, given that she works in IT, that she could have Googled Botox. She must be 50, Ian thinks. Same age as him. Different for women, though. What an asshole. Oh my God. Whoa. Ian is on a lot of dating apps and sets a strict upper age limit of 25. He finds the dating apps useful because it can be hard to meet exactly the right kind of women these days. They need to understand that his time is limited and his work is demanding, and that commitment is hard for him. Women over 25 don't seem to get that, in his experience at least. What happens to them, he wonders. He tries to imagine why someone would choose to date Karen Playfair, but draws a blank. Conversation? That runs out soon enough, doesn't it? She'll be rich soon, of course, when Ian buys the land. That will help her. Hillcrest will be a real life changer for Ian, too. It will eventually double the size of Cooper's Chase, and so double Ian's profits. Profits he will no longer have to share with Tony Curran. If that meant having to flirt with a 50-year-old for a couple of weeks, then so be it. On dates, Ian has his tried and tested material. He'll impress young women with pictures of his pool, and then, and the time that he was interviewed on Kent Tonight. He had already shown Karen a picture of his pool, because you never know, but she had simply smiled politely and nodded. No wonder she was single. He could do business with her, though. She knew the upsides here, and she knew the obstacles, and they end their conversation with a handshake and a plan of action. As he shakes Karen's hand, Ian thinks that she's using a bit of hand cream every now and then. Oh, I'm sorry. Ian thinks that using a bit of hand cream every now and then wouldn't kill her. 50. He wouldn't wish it on anyone. The thought briefly occurs to Ian that the only woman over 25 that he spends all of his time with, at all, is his wife. Oh well, time to go. Things to do. Chapter 10. Tony Curran has made up his mind. He brings his BMW X7 to a halt on his heated driveway. A heated driveway? Holy crap. On his heated driveway. There is a gun buried under the sycamore in the back garden. Or is it under the beach? It's one or the other, but that's something he can think about with a nice warm cup of tea. And he can try to remember where his spade is at while he's at it. Tony Curran is going to kill Ian Bentham. That's a given now. Surely Ian knows it too. You can only take so many liberties before even the most calm and rational man snaps. Tony whistles a tune from an advert and heads indoors. He moved in about 18 months ago, on the first real profits from Cooper's Chase. It was the type of house that he had always dreamed of. A house built on hard work, on making the right choices, cutting the right corners, and backing his own talent. A monument, a monument to what he'd achieved in brick, glass, and tempered walnut. Yeah, Misuku's okay. Yeah, that's fine with emotes. It's just when people spam like a fuck ton, you know? And they're doing it like over and over and over. It's just spamming in general, you know? Tony lets himself in and sets to work switching off the alarm. Bentham had got some of his gang to fit it in last week. Polish, a lot of them. But then, who isn't these days? Tony gets the 4-digit code right on the third attempt, a new record. Tony Curran has always taken his security very seriously. For many years, Tony's building company had really just been a front for his drug business, a way to explain away his income, a way to wash his dirty money. But it slowly got bigger, took up more of his time, brought in more and more money. If you had told a young Tony that he would end up living in this house, he wouldn't have been at all surprised. If you told him he'd be buying it with money he'd earned legally, he would have keeled over there and then. His wife, Debbie, is not back, but that suits him fine for now. Gives him time to concentrate, really think it all through. Tony rewinds to the fight with Ian Bentham, and his fury rises again. Ian was cutting him out of the woodlands, just like that? A conversation on a way out to the car? Outdoors, just in case Tony felt like swinging a punch. He would have loved to have smacked him there and then. But that was the old Tony. So they'd have a little row, nice and quiet. No one could possibly have noticed, and that's good for Tony. When Bentham turns up dead, no one could say that they saw Tony Curran and Ian Bentham having a ding-dong. Keeps it clean. Tony sits on a bar stool, pulls it up to the island in his vast kitchen, and slides open a drawer. He needs to get a plan down on paper. Tony is not a believer in luck. He's a believer in hard work. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. An old English teacher of Tony's had once told him that, and he'd never forgotten it. The next year, he torched the very same teacher's car, following an argument about a football. But Tony had to hand it to the guy. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. As it turns out, there's no paper in the drawer, so Tony decides to work out the plan in his head instead. Nothing needs to be done tonight. Let the world continue for a while. Let the birds keep singing in the garden. Let Bentham think that he's won, and then strike. Why did people ever mess with Tony Curran? When had that ever worked out for anyone? Tony hears the noise a second too late. He turns around to see the spanner as it swings toward him. A big one, too. Really old school stuff. There's no way of avoiding the swing, and in the brief moment of realization, Tony Curran gets it. You can't win 'em all, Tony. That's fair enough, he thinks. That's fair enough. The blow catches Tony on the left temple, and he collapses to the marble floor. The birds in the garden stop singing for the briefest of moments, and then continue their merry tune. High up in the sycamore tree, or is it in the beach? The killer places a photograph on the workshop as Tony Curran's fresh blood begins to form a moat around the walnut kitchen island. But this morning, there are different priorities. He understands that the morning the Thursday Murder Club has a real-life case. Not just yellowing pages of smudge typed out from another age. A real case. A real corpse. And, somewhere out there, a real killer. This morning, Ibrahim is needed, which is what he lives for. Did you guys expect it to be Tony that killed that died? Did you expect it? Oh my god. It's like a proper real life case. Holy crap. Okay. No. Okay. PC Donna De Frites carries a tray of teas into the incident room. A local builder, Tony something, has been murdered. And judging by the size of the assembled team, it's a big deal. Donna wonders why. If she takes her time with the teas, maybe she can find out. DCI Chris Hudson is addressing the team. He always seems nice enough. He wants to open some double doors for her without looking like he wanted a medal for it. Oh, excuse me, sorry. He wants to open double doors for her without looking like he wanted a medal for it. There are cameras at the property, and plenty of them. Get the footage. Tony Curran left Cooper's Chase at 2 p.m., and he died at 3:32, according to his Fitbit. That's only a small window to search. Donna had placed the tea tray on a desk while she stoops to tie her shoelace. She hears Cooper's Chase mentioned, which is interesting. There's also cameras on the A214 around 400 meters south of Curran's home and a half a mile north, so let's get hold of that footage too. You know, from the time frame. Chris stops for a moment and looks over at where Donna De Frites is crouching. Everything all right, Constable? He asks. Donna straightens up. Yes, sir. Just tying my shoelaces. Wouldn't want to trip with a tray of tea. Very wise, agrees Chris. Thank you for the tea. We'll let you get on now. Thank you, sir, says Donna and walks toward the door. She realizes that Chris, a detective of course, probably spotted that her shoes have no laces. That's great. I got it for him. But he surely wouldn't blame a young constable for wanting a bit of healthy curiosity. As she opens the door to leave, she hears Chris Hudson continue. Until we get all that, the biggest lead is a photograph the killer left by the body. Let's take a look. Donna can't resist turning and sees, projected onto the wall, an old photograph. 3 men in a pub, laughing and drinking. Their table is covered in banknotes. She only has a moment, but she recognizes one of the men immediately. Things would have been very different when Donna was a part of the murder squad. Very different. No more visiting primary schools to write serial numbers on bikes in invisible ink. No more politely reminding local shopkeepers that overflowing bins was actually a criminal constable, says Chris, snapping Donna from her train of thought. Donna takes her eyes off the photo and looks at Chris. Firmly, but kindly, he motions that she is free to leave. Donna smiles at Chris and nods. Daydreaming, sir. Daydreaming. Sorry, sir. She opens the door, walks through, back to the boardroom. She strains to hear every single word before the door finally swings shut. Three men, all of whom we obviously know very well. Shall we take them one by one? The door clunks shut. Donna sighs. Chapter 13. Joyce. I hope you will forgive me a morning diary entry, but Tony Curran is dead. Tony Curran is the builder who put this place up. Perhaps he had even laid bricks in my fireplace? Who knows? I mean, probably not. He probably had someone else to do that for him, didn't he? And all the plastering and what have you. He would have just overseen things, I suppose. But I bet his fingerprints are here somewhere, which is quite a thrill. Elizabeth rang me last night with the news. I would never describe Elizabeth as breathless, but honestly, she wasn't far off. Tony Curran was bludgeoned, of all things, by hand or hands unknown. I told her what I had seen with Ron and Jason, the row between Curran and Ian Bentham. She told me she already knew, so she must have spoken to Ron before she spoke to me. But she was polite enough to listen as I gave my view of it. I asked her if she was taking notes, and she said she would remember it. Anyway, Elizabeth seems to have some sort of plan. She said she's seeing Ibrahim this morning. I asked her if she knew if there was any way I might be able to help, and she said that there was. So I asked her what that way might be, and she said if I held my horses, I would find out soon enough. So I suppose I sit and wait for instructions? I'm going to take the minibus into Fairhaven later, but I shall keep my mobile on, just in case. I've become someone who has to keep their mobile on. Chapter 14. So, who killed Tony Curran, and how do we catch him? Asks Elizabeth. Or catch him or her. I know I should say, but it's probably him. What kind of woman would bludgeon someone? A Russian woman? But that's about it. After giving Ibrahim his instructions for the day, Elizabeth had headed straight over for this chat. She is in her usual chair. He absolutely seems the type to have had enemies. Sleeveless vest, big house, more tattoos than Ron, so on and so forth. The police will be making a list of suspects right now, and we'll have to get our hands on it. In the absence of their list, though, why don't we look at whether Ian Bentham killed Tony Curran? You remember Ian. With the aftershave, Bentham and Tony Curran had a little fight. Ron saw them, of course. But does he ever miss a thing? And Joyce said something about Pizza Express, but I knew what she meant. Elizabeth tries to mention Joyce more often these days, because why deny it? Shall we make some reasonable assumptions? Let's say that Bentham is unhappy with Curran, or Curran is unhappy with Bentham. It doesn't much matter which. Excuse me. They have something to discuss, and yet they meet in public, which is peculiar. Elizabeth checks her watch. She's subtle about it, despite everything. So, let's say, straight after the consultation meeting, Bentham has bad news to break. He fears Curran's reaction so much that he meets him in public view. He hopes to placate him, but in Ron's view, he was unsuccessful. I'm paraphrasing Ron there. There's a small sponge cube on a stick next to the bed. Elizabeth places it in a jug of water and wets Penny's dry lips. The metallic chirp of Penny's heart monitor fills the silence. So, how would Bentham react in that scenario, Penny? Facing Curran with a grudge? Switch to plan B? Follow Curran to his house? Let me in. Oh, let me in? Let's talk about this, perhaps? I've been too hasty? And then wallop! As simple as that, don't you think? He kills Curran before Curran kills him. Elizabeth looks around for her bag. She places her hands on the arms of the chair, ready to leave. But why? That's the question I'd know you to ask. I'm going to try and take a look at their financial relationship. Chase the money. There's a man in Geneva who owes me a favor, so we should be able to get to Bentham's financial records by this evening. Either way, it sounds like fun, doesn't it? An adventure. And I think we'll have a few tricks that the police won't. I'm sure they'd appreciate a bit of help. And that's my task for this morning. Elizabeth gets out of her chair and walks to the side of the bed. A real murder to investigate, Penny. I promise I won't let you miss a thing. She kisses her best friend on the forehead. She turns to the chair on the other side of the bed and gives a small smile. How are you, John? Penny's husband puts down his book and looks up. Oh, you know. Oh, I do know. You always know where I am, John. You always know where I am, John. The nurse say Penny Gray can hear nothing, but who's to say? John never speaks to Penny while Elizabeth is in the room. He comes into Willow's at 7 each morning, and he leaves at 9 each evening, back to the flat that he and Penny had lived in together. Back to the holiday trinkets and the old photos and the memories that he and Penny shared for 50 years. She knows that he talks to Penny when she's not there, and every time she walks in, after knocking, she notices the fading white prints of John's hand on Penny's. His hand back on his book, though he always seems to be on the same page. Elizabeth leaves the lovers together. Bye, Mizuku. Okay. Chapter 15. Joyce. Every Wednesday, I take the residence minibus into Fairhaven to do a spot of shopping. On Mondays, it goes to Turnbridge Wells, half an hour in the other direction, but I like the younger feel of Fairhaven. I like to see what people are wearing, and I like to hear the seagulls. This driver's name is Carlito, and he is generally understood to be Spanish, but I've chatted to him a number of times now, and it turns out that he's Portuguese. He is very good about it, though. There is a vegan cafe just off the seafront that I found a few months ago, and I'm already looking forward to a nice mint tea and an almond flour brownie. I'm not a vegan, and I have no intention of ever becoming one, but I still feel like it's something that should be encouraged. I read that if mankind doesn't stop eating meat, there will be mass starvation in 2050. With respect, I'm nearly 80, and so this won't be my problem, but I do hope that they sort it out. My daughter Joanna is a vegetarian, and one day I will take her there. We'll just drop in, as if me visiting a vegan cafe is the most natural thing in the world. The usual crowd are always on the bus. There are regulars, Peter and Carol, a nice couple from Ruskin. Hi, Night! From Ruskin, who take the minibus down to visit their daughter, who lives on the front. I know there are no grandkids, but nonetheless, she seems to be at home during the day. There will be a story there. There, Sir Nicholas, who just goes for a mooch now, they won't let him drive anymore. There's Naomi with her hip that they can't get to the bottom of, and a woman from Wordsworth whose name I have never quite caught and am now too embarrassed to ask. She's friendly enough, though. Elaine, maybe? I know that Bernard will be in the customary position at the back. I always feel like I would like to sit next to him. He is jolly company, and when he turns his mind to it. But I know he visits Fairhaven for his late wife, so I leave him in peace. That's where they met, and that's where they lived before they moved in here. He told me that since she died, he would go to the Adelphi Hotel, where she used to work, and polish off a couple glasses of wine overlooking the sea. That's how I first found out about the minibus, if I'm honest. So, silver linings. They turned the Adelphi into a travel lodge last year. So now Bernard sits on the pier. That is less desolate than it sounds, as they recently revamped and it has won a number of awards. Perhaps I will just sit next to him at the back of the bus one day. What am I waiting for? I'm looking forward to my tea and brownie, but I'm also looking forward to a bit of peace and quiet. The whole of Cooper's Chase is still gossiping about poor Tony Curran. We're around death a lot here, but even so, not everyone is bludgeoned, are they? Right, that's me. If anything happens, I'll report back. Chapter 16. As the minibus is about to leave, the doors slide open for a final time, and Elizabeth steps in. She takes a seat next to Joy. Hi, Hex. Hello. I'm new here, and what's going on, lads? We're just reading a book. We're reading the Thursday Murder Club. So sit back and enjoy. People are most probably just vibing and lurking and potentially falling asleep. Okay. Good morning, Joyce, she says, smiling. Well, isn't this a first, says Joyce. How lovely. I've brought a book. If you don't want to talk on the journey, says Elizabeth. Oh, no, let's talk, says Joyce. Carlito pulls away with his customary care. Splendid, says Elizabeth. I haven't really brought a book. Elizabeth and Joyce settle into conversation. They are very careful not to talk about the Tony Curran case. One of the first things you'll learn at Copper Chase is that people can still actually hear. Have fun, Hex. I hope you enjoy. Instead, Elizabeth tells Joyce the last time that she went to Fairhaven, which was sometime in the 1960s, and whose purpose concerned a piece of equipment that had washed up on the beach. Elizabeth refuses to be drawn into detail, but tells Joyce that it was almost certainly now a matter of public record, and she could presumably look it up somewhere if she was interested. The journey passes very pleasantly. The sun is up, the skies are blue, and murder is in the air. As always, Carlito stops the minibus outside Ryman's. Everyone knows to meet back here in 3 hours' time. Carlito has done his job for 2 years now, and not a single person has ever been late. Well, except for Malcolm Weekers, who, as it turns out, had died in the light bulb aisle in Robert Dias. Joyce and Elizabeth let the others out first, allowing their assault course of ramps and sticks and frames to disperse. Oh, thank you for following, Hex. Bernard doffs his hat to the ladies as he exits, and they watch as he shuffles toward the seafront, his Daily Express tucked under his arm. As they step down from the bus, and Elizabeth thanks Carlito for his considerate driving in perfect Portuguese, Joyce thinks to ask for the first time what Elizabeth is planning on doing in Fairhaven. Same as you, dear. Shall we? Elizabeth starts walking away from the seafront, and Joyce chooses to follow, keen for adventure, but still hopeful that she might have time for her tea and brownie. A short walk away is Western Road and the broad stone steps of Fairhaven Police Station. Elizabeth turns back to Joyce as the automatic doors in front of her open. Here's the way I see it, Joyce. If we're going to investigate this murder... We're going to investigate this murder? Asked Joyce. Well, of course we are, Joyce, says Elizabeth. Who better than us? But we have no access to any case files, any witness statements, any forensics, and we're going to have to change that, which is why we're here. I know I don't need to say this, Joyce, but just back me up, whatever happens. Joyce nods. Of course. They walk in. Once inside, the two ladies are buzzed through a security door into a public reception area. Joyce has never been inside a police station before, though has watched every ITV documentary going and is disappointed that no one is being wrestled to the ground and dragged to a cell. Their obscenities thrillingly beeped out. Instead, there is just a young desk sergeant pretending he isn't playing patience on his home office computer. How can I help you, ladies? He asks. Wait, they're in Britain, right? Maybe I can do an accent. Hold on. How can I help you, ladies? He asks. Elizabeth starts to cry. Joyce manages to control her double take. Someone stole my bag outside Holland and Barrett, weeps Elizabeth. So that's why she didn't have her bag with her, thinks Joyce. That had been bugging her in the minibus. Joyce puts her arms around her friend's shoulders. It was awful. Let me get an officer to take your statement from you, and we'll see what we can do. The desk sergeant presses a buzzer on the wall to the left, and within seconds, a young constable enters through a further security door behind him. Mark. This lady has just had trouble. No. This lady has just had her handbag stolen on Queen's Road. Can you take a statement? I'll make a cuppa for everyone. Certainly, madam. If you'll follow me. Elizabeth stands her ground and refuses to move. She is shaking her head, cheeks wet with tears now. I want to talk to a female police constable. I'm sure Mark can sort this out for you, says the the desk sergeant. Please, cries Elizabeth. Joyce decides the time has come for her to help her friend out. My friend is a nun, Sergeant. A nun? Asked the desk sergeant. Yes, a nun. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you what that entails. The desk sergeant sees that this is a discussion that could end badly in so many ways, and chooses an easy life. I'll get you a moment, madam. If you'll, I'll find someone for you. He follows Mark back through the security door, and Elizabeth and Joyce are alone for a moment. Elizabeth stops the waterworks and looks over at Joyce. A nun? That was really good. I didn't have much time to think, said Joyce. If pushed, I was going to say, oh, God. Don't know if I'm going to read that. I was going to say something else, says Elizabeth. You know how hot... No, okay. Why do you want to see a female police officer? Joyce has a number of other questions now, but this is the first in the queue. And well done on not saying WPC, by the way. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Joyce. I just thought that, as the bus was going into Fairhaven anyway, we should pop in and see the PC de Frites. Joyce nods slowly. In Elizabeth's world, that is absolutely the sort of thing that makes sense. But what if she's not on shift? Or what if she is, but there's another female constable? Would I have brought you here if I hadn't already checked that, Joyce? How did you check that? The security door swings open, and Donna de Frites steps out. Now, ladies, how can I... Donna registers who is in front of her. She looks from Elizabeth to Joy and back again. Help you. Chapter 17. Cardinal, thank you for following. Hello. Yeah, we're on 17 now. Let me tell you how many chapters there are altogether. There's 115. DCI Chris Hudson had been given a file on Tony Curran, so thick that it makes a pleasing thud if you drop it on a desk, which is what he's just done. That's long? Yeah. Yeah, it's a thick book. You know, the Night Circus is even longer than this. Chris takes a swig of Diet Coke. He sometimes worries he's addicted to it. He has read a headline about Diet Coke once, which was so worrying that he had chosen not to read the article. He opens the file. Most of Tony Curran's dealings with the Kent police were from before Chris's time in Fairhaven. Charges for assault in his 20s, minor drug convictions, dangerous driving, dangerous dog, possession of an illegal weapon, attacks, disc misdemeanor, public urination. Then comes the real story. Chris opens an indeterminate sandwich from the garage. There are transcripts of a number of interviews held with Tony Curran over the years, with the last one being after a shooting in the Blackbridge pub, which left a young drug dealer dead. A witness recognized Tony Curran as firing the fatal shot, and Fairhaven CID called Curran in for questioning. Tony Curran had been in the middle of everything back then. Ask around and anyone would tell you. Tony ran the drugs trade in Fairhaven, and plenty more besides. Made a lot of money. Chris reads the depressingly familiar stream of no comments on the Black Bridge transcripts. He reads that the witness, a local taxi driver, had disappeared soon after. Scared away, or worse. Tony Curran, local builder, walked away scot-free. So what was that? 1 death? 2? The drug dealer shot at the Black Bridge and perhaps the poor taxi driver who witnessed it. Since 2000, though, nothing. A speeding ticket promptly paid in 2009. He looks at the photograph the killer had left by the body. 3 men. Tony Curran, now dead. With his arm around Tony was a local dealer from back in the day, Bobby Tanner, hired as muscle. Whereabouts currently unknown, but they would track him down soon enough. And the third man, whereabouts very much known, the ex-boxer Jason Ritchie. Chris wonders what the newspapers would pay for this photo. He had heard the officers doing this. He had heard of officers doing this. The lowest of the low, as far as Chris was concerned. He looked at the smiles, the banknotes, and the beers. It was probably sometime around 2000, when the boy was shot in the Black Bridge. Funny to think of the year 2000 as ancient history. Chris opens a Twix as he studies the photo. He has his annual medical in 2 months, and every Monday he convinces himself that this is finally the week he gets back into shape, finally shifts the stone or so that holds him back. The stone or so that gives him cramp. There's stone or so that stops him buying new clothes, just in case, and that stops him dating, because who would want this? The stone or so that stands between him and the world. 2 stone, if he's truly honest. Those Mondays are usually good. Chris doesn't take the lift on Mondays. Chris brings food from home on Mondays. Chris does sit-ups in bed on Mondays. But by Tuesday, or in a good week Wednesday, the world creeps back in. The stairs seem too daunting, and Chris loses faith in the project. He's aware that the project is himself, and that drags him further down still. So come out the pastries and the crisps, the petrol station lunch, the quick drink after work, the takeaway on the way home from work, the chocolate on the way home from the takeaway, the eating, the numbing, the release, the shame, and then repeat. But there was always next Monday, and one of these Mondays there would be salvation. That stone would drop off, followed by the other stone that was lurking. He'd barely break sweat at the medical. He'd be the athlete he's always secretly knew he was. Text a thumbs up to the new girlfriend he'd have met online. He finishes the Twix and looks around for the crisps. Chris Hudson guesses that the Black Bridge shooting was the wake-up call that Tony Curran needed. That was certainly how it looked. He had started working with a local property developer called Ian Bentham around that time, and perhaps he decided life would be simpler if he turned legit. There was good money in it, even if it's not what he was grown used to. Tony would have known he couldn't keep riding his luck. Chris opens his crisps and looks at his watch. He has an appointment and should probably head off. Someone saw Tony Curran having a row just before he died, and that someone is insisting on talking to him personally. It's not a long trip. The retirement community Curran had been working at. Chris looks at the photo again. The 3 men, that happy gang, Tony Curran and Bobby Tanner, arms around each other, and off to the side, a bottle in his hand, and that handsome broken nose, maybe a couple of years past the height of his powers, Jason Ritchie. 3 friends drinking beer at a table covered in money. Why leave the photo with the body? A warning from Bobby Tanner or Jason Ritchie? A warning to them? You're next? More likely a red herring or a misdirect. No one would be so stupid. Either way, Chris will need to have a chat with Jason Ritchie, and hopefully his team will find their missing man, Bobby Tanner. Actually, they're missing men, thinks Chris, tipping the last of his crisps into his mouth. Because who took the photograph in the first place? Interesting. I think we're going to do maybe 1 or 2 more chapters, okay? What do you guys think? 1 or 2 more chapters? Maybe we'll get to chapter 20? I think that's a good plan. Okay. Chapter 18. Donna motions for her 2 visitors to sit. They are in interview suite B, a boxy, windowless room with a wooden table bolted to the floor. Joyce looks around with the excitement of a tourist. Elizabeth looks at home. Donna has her eyes on the heavy door, waiting for it to swing shut. The moment it clicks into place, she looks straight at Elizabeth. So you're a nun now, huh, Elizabeth? Elizabeth nods quickly, raising a finger to acknowledge that this is a good question. Donna, like any modern woman, I am any number of things. As and when the need arises. Wow, sorry, I'm starting to get tired. Hold on, let me reread that. Donna, like any modern woman, I am any number of things as and when the need arises. We have to be chameleons, don't we? She takes a notepad and pen from the inside of a coat pocket and places them on the table. But Joyce takes credit for that one. Joyce is still staring around the room. This is exactly like you see on television, PC de Frites. How wonderful. It must be so much fun to work here. Donna is not sharing in the sense of awe. So Elizabeth, have you had your bag stolen? No, dear, says Elizabeth. Good luck to anyone trying to steal my bag. Can you imagine? Then can I ask what the 2 of you are doing here? I have work that needs finishing. Elizabeth nods. Of course, that's very reasonable. Well, I'm here because I wanted to talk to you about something. And Joyce was here for shopping, I presume. Joyce? I realize I haven't asked. I like to go to Anything with a Pulse, the vegan cafe, if you know it. Donna looks at her watch and leans forward. Well, here I am. If you want to talk, go ahead. I'll give you 2 minutes before I go back to catching criminals. Elizabeth gives a light clap of the hands. Excellent. Well, first, I will say this. Stop pretending you're not pleased to see us again, because I know that you are, and we're pleased to see you again. This will be so much more fun if we can all just accept that. Donna does not reply. Joyce leans into the tape recorder sitting on the table. For the purposes of this tape, PC de Frites refuses to answer, but is attempting to hide a slight smile. Secondly, but connected to that, continues Elizabeth, whatever it is we are keeping you from, I know one thing for certain. It isn't catching criminals. It is something boring. No comment, deadpans Donna. Where are you from, Donna? May I call you Donna? You may. I'm from South London. Transferred from the Met? Donna nods. Elizabeth takes a note in her book. You're taking notes? Asks Donna. Elizabeth nods. Why so? And why to Fairhaven? That's a story for another day. You have one more question before I leave the room. Fun though this is. Of course, replies Elizabeth. She shuts her notebook and adjusts her glasses. Well, I have a statement, really.
But I promise it does end with a question. Donna turns up her palms, inviting Elizabeth to continue. This is what I see, and I know you'll stop me if I misspeak. You're in your mid-20s. You give the impression of being clever and intuitive. You also give the impression of being very kind and yet handy should a fight erupt. For reasons we will get to the bottom of, certainly, excuse me. For reasons we will get to the bottom of, almost certainly a doomed relationship, you have left London, where I would have thought the life and the work would have suited you to a T. You find yourself here in Fairhaven, where the crime is minor and the criminals are petty, and you're pounding the streets. Maybe a junkie steals a bicycle. Donna, maybe someone drives off from a petrol station without paying, or maybe there's a fight over a girl in the pub. Goodness me, what a bore. For reasons that are not of importance. I once worked in a bar in the former Yugoslavia for 3 months, and my brain was screaming out for excitement, for stimulation, for something extraordinary to happen. Does that sound familiar? You are single. You're living in a rented flat. You have not found it easy to make friends in this town. Most of your colleagues in the station are a bit old for you. I'm sure that young PC Mark has asked you out, but there's no way he could handle a South London girl. So you had to say no. You both find it awkward still. That poor boy. Your pride won't allow you to go back to the Met for a good while, so you're stuck here for the time being. You're stuck. You're still the new girl, so promotion is pretty distant prospect. Added to the fact that you're not at all popular because, deep down, everyone can tell that you made a mistake and you resent being here. You can't even quit. Why throw away the years on the force? The tough years, just because of a wrong turn. So you strap on the uniform and you turn up, shift after shift, gritted teeth. Just waiting for something extraordinary to happen. Like perhaps a woman who isn't a nun, pretending her bag has been stolen. Elizabeth raises an eyebrow at Donna, looking for a response. Donna is utterly impassive, utterly unimpressed. I'm waiting for the question, Elizabeth. Elizabeth nods and opens her notebook again. My question is this. Wouldn't you like to be investigating the Tony Curran murder? There is silence as Donna slowly weaves her hands together and rests her chin on them. She considers Elizabeth very carefully before speaking. There's already a team investigating the Tony Curran murder, Elizabeth. A highly qualified murder squad. I recently delivered tea to it. They don't really have a vacancy for a PC who tuts everything every time she gets asked to do the photocopying. Have you ever thought it's possible that you don't really understand how the police works? Elizabeth notes this down as she talks as she writes. That is possible. How complicated it must all be. But a lot of fun, I imagine. I imagine too, agrees Donna. They say he was bludgeoned, says Elizabeth, with a large spanner. Can you confirm that? No comment, Elizabeth, says Donna. Elizabeth stops writing and looks up again. Wouldn't you like to be a part of it, Donna? Donna starts to drum her fingers on the desk. Okay, let's just suppose that I would like to be involved in the murder investigation. Yes, quite. Let's suppose that. Let's start there and see where we get to. You do understand how CID works, Elizabeth. I can't simply ask to be assigned onto a particular investigation. Elizabeth smiles. Oh, goodness, don't you worry about that, Donna. We can take care of it all. You can take care of it? I should have thought so, yes. How? Asks Donna. Well, there's always a way, isn't there? But you would be interested if we could make this happen? Donna looks back to the heavy door, safely shut. When could you make this happen, Elizabeth? Elizabeth looks at her watch and gives a small shrug. An hour, perhaps. And this conversation never leaves the room. Elizabeth puts a finger to her lips. Then I would. Yes, please. Donna holds her hands up, open and honest. I would really, really like to chase murderers. Elizabeth smiles and puts her notebook back in her pocket. Well, isn't this smashing? I thought I had read the situation correctly. What's in it for you? Asks Donna. Nothing, other than a favor to a new friend. And we might have the odd question here or there. But the investigation, about the investigation, just to satisfy our curiosity. I'm just gonna run an ad really quickly so that I don't miss it, okay? Okay. I'll wait for the people who need to watch the ad. All right. Beautiful. Let's take a moment. While that's going, how are you guys enjoying it? Who's your favorite character so far? What do you think? Are you having fun with this stream? Are people asleep? If you are, you don't have to answer. Ian the hater? I'm lost. You're doodling? Nice. You love Elizabeth? Yeah, she's growing on me. Elizabeth is definitely growing on me. I think at first my favorite was probably... I really like Joyce and I really like Abraham. He's funny. I just joined and steal your soda while you were reading. Frontier, no. How could you? How could you? This is actually one of my favorite books. I just woke up and getting ready to tech my high school marching band. Oh, you've read it? Heck yeah. Oh, so I gotta go now? Bye, Bloop. Everyone say goodbye. Goodbye. Are we back from break? Are we back? Bye-bye. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I think once we finish, depending on how long the next chapters are, we might do 1 or 2 more chapters. Okay. This is so much fun. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you for enjoying it, even though I mess up and my reading's a bit funny sometimes. But I really appreciate you guys hanging around. I'm glad that you're having a really good time. Okay. Let's keep going. You might fall asleep again. No judgment. All power to you, Corn. Okay. Where were we? What's in it for you? Asks Donna. Nothing. Other than a favor to a new friend. And we might... Whoa. Oh, I see. Give me 1 second. Okay, are we ready? We ready? Yes? Okay. We might have the odd question here or there about the investigation, just to satisfy our curiosity. You know I couldn't tell you anything confidential. That's not a deal I can agree to. Nothing unprofessional, I promise you. Elizabeth crosses herself. As a woman of God. And in an hour, you say? Elizabeth looks at her watch. I'd say in about an hour, depending on the traffic. What chapter? We're almost at 19. Fate and HSR collab confirmed. Is it like a direct that you're talking about? Donna nods, as if this makes complete sense. About your little speech, though, Elizabeth. I don't know if it was designed to impress me or to show off in front of Joyce, but it was pretty obvious stuff. Elizabeth concedes the point. Obvious, but right, dear. Almost right, but you're not quite, Miss Marple. Is she, Joyce? Joyce pipes up. Oh yes, that boy Mark is gay. Elizabeth, you'd have to be fairly blind to miss that. Donna smiles. Luckily, you have your friend with you, sister. She likes that Elizabeth is attempting to hide a smile of her own. I'll need your mobile number, by the way, Donna says. Excuse me, sorry. I'll need your mobile number, by the way, Donna, says Elizabeth. I don't really want to fake a crime scene every time I need to see you. Donna slides her card over the table. Hi, Benny. I hope that's a personal number and not an official one, says Elizabeth. It would be nice to have some privacy. Donna looks at Elizabeth, shakes her head and sighs. She writes down another number on the card. Lovely, says Elizabeth. I suspect between us we can find whoever kills Tony Curran. I can't be beyond the wit of man, or rather, a woman. Oh, I'm sorry. It can't be beyond the wit of man, or rather, women. Woman. Huh? Hi, Demonic. Benny, thank you for following. Donna stands. Should I ask how you can get me on the investigating team, Elizabeth? Or don't I want to know? Elizabeth checks her watch. Nothing you need to concern yourself with. Ron and Ibrahim should be taking care of it about now. Joyce waits for Elizabeth to stand too, then leads into the tape recorder once again. Interview terminated. 12:47 p.m. Chapter 19. DCI Chris Hudson swings his Ford Focus onto that long, broad driveway leading up to Cooper's Chase. The traffic hasn't been at all bad, and he's hoping that this won't take too long. As he checks out his surroundings, Chris wonders why this place needs quite so many llamas. There are no spaces in the visitor's car park, so he eases the Focus onto a verge and steps out into the Kent sun. Chris has been to retirement communities before, and this is not at all what he had been expecting. This is a whole village. He wanders past a bowls match, wine chilling in the coolers at each end. One of the players is an extremely elderly woman smoking a pipe. He follows a meandering path through a perfect English garden, flanked by 3 stories of flats. There are people gossiping on patios and balconies, enjoying the sunshine. Friends sit on benches, bees buzz around bushes, light breezes play tunes with the ice cubes. Chris finds the whole thing deeply infuriating. He's a wind and rain guy, a turn up the collar on your overcoat man. If Chris had his way, he would hibernate for the summer. He has not worn shorts since 1987. Chris crosses a residence car park, past a red postbox looking picture book, perfect, annoying him further, and finds Codsworth Court. He rings the buzzer for flat 11, Mr. Ibrahim Arif. After being buzzed up and walking across a lushly carpeted hallway and up a lushly carpeted staircase and knocking on a solid oak door, Chris finds himself in the flat of Ibrahim Arif, sitting opposite the man himself and also opposite Ron Ritchie. Ron Ritchie. Well, wasn't that quite the thing? Chris had been taken aback the moment he had ever been introduced. The father of a man Chris was investigating. What was that? Luck? Something more sinister? Chris decides he'll just let it play out. He trusts that if there was an angle, oh my god, I read that so wrong. If there's an angle, he will spot it. Strange that this is where Red Ron ended up, though. The scourge of the bosses, the beast of the British Leyland, and British steel, and British whatever else you'd care to mention, amidst the honeysuckle and oddities of Cooper's Chase, Chris would have barely recognized him, to be honest. Ron Ritchie is wearing mismatched pajamas, an unzipped tracksuit top, and dress shoes. He's looking around vacantly, mouth open. He is a mess, and Chris feels awkward, as if he's imposing on a private scene. An eagle, an angle. Abraham is explaining the situation to DCI Chris Hudson. It can be very stressful for elderly people to talk to police officers. You mustn't think that's your fault. This is why I suggested you conduct the interview here. Chris nods gently, because he has done the training. I can assure you that Mr. Ritchie is not in any trouble, but if, as you say, he has information, I will need to ask him a couple of questions. Abraham turns to Ron. Ron, he just wants to ask you about the arguments you saw. Remember? We talked about it? Abraham looks back at Chris. He forgets things. He's very old. Detective Chief Inspector. A very, very old man. All right, Abraham, says Ron. Abraham pats Ron's hand and speaks to him slowly. I think it's quite safe, Ron. We've seen this gentleman's warrant card. I rang the number on it, and then I Googled him. Remember? I just don't know. I just don't think I can, says Ron. I don't want to get into any trouble. There won't be any trouble, Mr. Ritchie, says Chris. I guarantee it. It's just that you might have important information. Red Ron is a shadow of his former self, and Chris is very aware that he must play this carefully. Certainly don't mention Jason yet. The possibility of a pub lunch is also rapidly vanishing. Mr. Riff is right. You can tell me anything. Ron looks at Chris, then back to Abraham for signs of reassurance. Abraham squeezes his friend's arm, and Ron looks at Chris again. He leans forward. I think I'd be happier talking to the lady. Chris is taking his first sip of the mint tea Abraham has made for him. The lady? He looks at Ron and then at Abraham. Abraham helps him out. Which lady, Ron? The lady, IB. Is that IB? The lady, IB. Oh, Ib for Abraham. The lady Ib. The one who comes and talks to us. The woman copper. Oh, yes, says Abraham. PC de frites. She often comes to talk to us, Detective Chief Inspector. Window locks. Do you know her? Of course, she's one on my team. Chris is trying to remember if the young PC with the non-existent shoelaces was Donna de Frites. He was fairly sure she was. She'd come from the Met, and no one knew why. We work very closely together. So she's a part of the investigation? That's excellent news, Ibrahim beams. We love PC de Frites here. Zayni, why are you so cutie? I don't know. The fucking window locks again. Yeah. Well, she's not officially a part of the investigation team, Mr. Arif, says Chris. She's on other important duties, catching criminals and so on. Ron and Ibrahim don't say a word. They just look expectantly at Chris. But it's a terrific idea. I would love to have her on the team, says Chris, trying to work out who he would need to speak to. Surely someone owed him a favor. She's a fine officer, says Ibrahim. She does you credit. Ibrahim becomes serious again and turns to Ron. So if the handsome detective here and our friend PC de Frites came to talk to you together, would you be happy, Ron? Ron takes his first sip of tea. That'd be perfect, Ib. I'd like that. I'll talk to Jason too. Jason, says Chris on alert. Do you like boxing, son? Asks Ron. Chris nods. Very much, Mr. Ritchie. My boy is a boxer, Jason. I know, sir, says Chris. You must be very proud. Only he was with me, so you should be here. Wait, what?
Oh, Sins, thank you for resubbing. Also, hello.
Only he was with me, so he should be here. He saw the road too. Chris nods. Well, that is very interesting. The trip has not been wasted. Well, I'm sure I can come back and talk with you both. And you'll bring PC de fritas with you? How wonderful, says Ibrahim. Of course, says Chris. Whatever it takes to get us the truth. Or whatever gets us to the truth. My apologies. And now we're at chapter 20. Now, unfortunately, my throat is not enjoying speaking this much. So I think that we will leave the stream there. Thank you so much for visiting with me, you guys. Are you guys enjoying the book? I hope you really like it. But I just got back. I'm sorry. I know. My throat is really sore. Okay, maybe we'll do one more chapter. One more chapter, okay? How about that? For you, Sins. We'll do one more chapter. We'll go to 21. Unless it's a really short chapter. Then we'll go to 22. It's a really short chapter. Then we'll go to 22. Okay. Thanks for the read. No, it's okay. We'll go one more. Take it easy. No more. No, it's okay. We'll do one more. It's just that my throat's just starting to get scratchy. That's all. It's not anything crazy. All right, ready? We're doing one more chapter. Chapter 20. Joyce. Also, that'll round us off hopefully at 3.5 hours for stream. So it'll be good. Do it like in JJK and chug a bottle of throat medicine. So it seems we're investigating a murder. And better still, I have been in a police interview room. This diary is bringing me luck. It was interesting watching Elizabeth in action. She's very impressive, very calm. I wonder if we would have gotten along if we'd met 30 years ago. Probably not. We're from different worlds. But this place brings people together. Oh, I looked up and there it is. I do hope I'll be of some help to Elizabeth in the investigation. Help to catch Tony Kern's killer. Perhaps I will in my own way. I think that if I have a special skill, it is that I am often overlooked. Is that the word? Underestimated, perhaps. Cooper's Chase is full of the great and the good, people who've done something or other with their lives. It's really a lot of fun. There's someone who helped design the Channel Tunnel, someone who has had a disease named after them, and someone who was the ambassador to Paraguay or Uruguay. You know the type. And me, Joyce Meadowcroft. What do they make of me, I wonder? Harmless, certainly. Chatty? Guilty? I'm afraid. Oh, guilty, I'm afraid. But I know they know, deep down, that I'm not one of them. A nurse, not a doctor. Not that anyone would say that to my face. They know that Joanna bought my flat here. Joanna is one of them. Me, not so much. And yet, if there's a row at catering committee, or if there's a problem with the lake pumps, or if, as happened very recently, one resident's dog impregnates another and all hell breaks loose, then who's there to fix it? Joyce Meadowcroft. I'm very happy to listen to the grandstanding, watching the chests puffing out, hear the furious threats of legal action, and wait for them to blow themselves out. Then I step in and suggest that maybe there's a way through, and perhaps there is a compromise to be reached, and perhaps dogs will be dogs. Nobody here feels threatened by me. Nobody sees me as a rival. I'm just Joyce. Gentle, chatty Joyce. Always has her nose in everything. So everyone calms down through me. Quiet, sensible Joyce. There is no more shouting, and the problem is fixed. More often than not in a way that advantages me, which is something no one ever seems to notice. So I'm very happy to be overlooked, and always have been. And I do think perhaps that will be helpful in this investigation. Everyone can look at Elizabeth, and I'll just get on with being me. The Meadowcroft, by the way, is from my late husband, Jerry, and I have always liked it. I had many reasons to marry Jerry, and his surname was another to add to a long list. A friend of mine from nursing married a Bumstead, Barbara Bumstead. I think I might have found an excuse and called it off. What a day. I think I'll watch an old Prime Suspect and then bed. Whatever Elizabeth needs me to do next, I will be ready. Ooh, story time. How's it poppin'? We doing stories? We're reading The Thursday Murder Club. Okay. Chapter 21. It's another beautiful morning. Bogdan Jankowski is sitting on a swing chair in Ian Bentham's patio and is taking some time to think things through. Tony Curran has been murdered. Someone broke into his home and killed him. There were plenty of suspects, and Bogdan is going over a few of them in his head, thinking about reasons they may have for wanting Tony Curran dead. Everyone seems shocked by Tony's death, but nothing surprises Bogdan. People die all the time, of all sorts of things. His father had fallen from a dam near Krakow when Bogdan was a child, or jumped, or was pushed. It didn't matter. It didn't change the fact that he had died. Something will always get you in the end. Ian's garden is not to Bogdan's... Did I read that right? Ian's garden is not to Bogdan's taste. The lawn, which stretches down to a line of trees in the far distance, is orderly and English and striped. Down toward the trees, off to the left, there is a pond. Ian Bentham calls it a lake, but Bogdan knows it's a pond. It has a small wooden bridge crossing its far end as it narrows. Children would love it, but Bogdan has never seen children in his garden. Ian had bought a family of ducks, but foxes killed the ducks, and then a guy Bogdan knew from the pub had killed the foxes. Ian didn't buy any more ducks after that, because what would be the point? There will always be some foxes. Some wild ducks still visited. Good to them, was Bogdan's view. The swimming pool is directly on Bogdan's right. You could take a few steps down from the patio and dive straight in. Bogdan had tiled the swimming pool. Bogdan had painted the little bridge duck egg blue, and Bogdan had laid the patio that he was sitting on. Ian had come good on his offer and had asked him to oversee the building of the Woodlands development. So he was taking over from Tony, which some people might now see as bad luck. A jinx, perhaps. But to Bogdan, it was just something that was happening, and he would do it as well as he was able. Good money. The money doesn't really interest Bogdan, but the challenge does. And he likes being around the village. He likes the people. Bogdan had seen all the plans now, studied everything. They were complicated at first. Once you'd seen the patterns, simple enough. Bogdan had enjoyed working on smaller jobs for Ian Bentham. He had liked the order of it, but he understands that things change and that he needs to step up. Bogdan's mother had died when he was 19. She had come into some money when Bogdan's father had died. From somewhere. It hadn't been a time for details. The money paid for Bogdan to take up place at the Technical University in Krakow to study engineering. And that's where he had been when his mother suffered a stroke and collapsed at home. If he had still been at home, then he would have saved her. But he wasn't. So he didn't. Bogdan came home, buried his mother, and left for England the next day. Nearly 20 years later, he's looking at a stupid lawn. Bogdan is thinking that he will maybe close his eyes for a moment when from the other side of the house comes the deep sound of the front door chimes. A rare visitor to this big quiet house, and the reason Ian had asked Bogdan to be here today. Ian slides back the patio door of his study. Bogdan. Door. Yes, of course. Bogdan gets to his feet. He goes in via the conservatory he'd designed, through the music room he'd soundproofed, and into the hallway that he had once sanded in his underpants on the hottest day of the year. Whatever you needed him to do. Father Matthew Mackey is regretting asking his cabbie to drop him off at the bottom of the drive. It had been quite the walk from the front gate to the front door. He fans himself with a little file, then quickly using the camera on his phone to check the dog collar is straight, rings the bell. He's relieved to hear noises from inside the house, because you never know when you make, even when you've made arrangements. He was happy to meet here. It makes things easier all round. Hi, Luxie. Yeah, we're reading The Thursday Murder Club. This is the last chapter we're reading, though. He hears footsteps on a wooden floor, and the door is opened by a broad, shaven-headed man. He wears a tight, white t-shirt, and he has a cross tattooed on his forearm and 3 names on the other. Father, says the man. Good news, a Catholic, and judging by the accent, Polish. Oh, father. Father? Dzień dobry. Oh, dzień dobry, says Father Mackey. The man smiles back. Dzień dobry. Dzień dobry. I have an appointment to see Dr. Ventha? Matthew Mackey. The man takes his hand and shakes it. Oh, this is Bogdan. Duh. Okay. Bogdan Jankowski. Come in, please, Father. We understand, believe me, that you have no legal imperative to help us, says Father Matthew Mackey. We disagree with the council's ruling, of course, but we must accept it. Mike Griffin, from the planning committee, had done his job well, thinks Ian. Feel free to dig up the graveyard, Ian, he'd said. Be our guest. Mike Griffin is addicted to online casinos, and long may that continue. However, I do think you have a moral obligation to leave the Garden of Eternal Rest, the graveyard, exactly where it is, continues Father Mackey. And I wanted to meet you face to face, man to man, and see if we can come to a compromise. Ian Bentham listens closely, in honesty, is really thinking about how clever he is. He is the cleverest person he knows, that's for certain. That's how he gets what he wants. It feels almost unfair sometimes. He's not even one step ahead of you. He's on an entirely different path. Karen Playfair had been an easy one. If he can't persuade Gordon Playfair to sell his land, then he knows she will. Dads and daughters, and she'd see a chunk of the money, surely. An old man can only turn down a 7-figure sum for a big hill for so long. Ian would always find a way. Hi, Rock On! But Father Mackey is trickier than Karen Playfair. He sees that. Priests weren't like divorces in their early 50s who could stand to lose a few pounds, were they? You had to pretend to have some respect and maybe you actually should have some respect. After all, what if they were right? Open mind. Which was another example of cleverness being useful. That's why Ian had asked Bogdan to join them. He knows this lot like to stick together, and quite right. Who doesn't? He realizes he should probably speak. We're only moving the bodies, Father, says Ian. It'll be done with the greatest of care and the greatest of respect. Ian knows that this is not strictly true. Legally, he had to put the job out for the public tender. 3 bids had come in. One was from the University of Kent Forensic Anthropology Department, who would certainly do the job with the greatest of care and respect. One was from a firm of cemetery specialists in Rye, who had certainly moved 30 graves from the side of the new pets at home and included pictures of solemn men and women in dark blue overalls digging out graves by hand. The last was from a company set up 2 months ago by Ian himself, with a funeral director from Brighton he had met playing golf, and Sue Banbury from Ian's village, who rented out diggers. The final pitch was extremely competitive and had won the business. Ian had looked into the excavation of cemeteries online, and it wasn't rocket science. Some of the graves are nearly 150 years old, Mr. Bentham, said Father Mackey. Call me Ian, says Ian. Ian hadn't strictly needed to have this meeting, but he feels it's better to be safe than sorry. A lot of the residents can get quite churchy when it suits them, and he wouldn't want Father Mackey stirring up trouble. People get funny about corpses, so hear the man out. Reassure him. Send him happily on his way. Donate to something? There's a thought to keep in your back pocket. What are we reading? The Thursday Murder Club. The company you've employed to relocate the cemetery. Mackey looks at his file. Angels in transit. The removal specialists? They know what they're going to find, I hope. There won't be many intact coffins, Ian. Just bones. And not skeletons. Loose bones, broken down, scattered, half rotted, sunken through the earth, and every single fragment of every single bone in every single grave needs to be found, needs to be documented, and needs to be respected. That's basic decency, but don't forget that it's also the law. Ian nods, though he's actually wondering if it's possible to paint a digger... Oh my. To paint a digger black. Sue will know. I'm here today, continues Father Mackey, to ask you to think again, to leave the ladies where they lie, to leave them in peace. Man to man. I don't know what it would cost you to do that. That's your business. But you have to understand, as a man of God, that's my business too. I don't want these women moved. Hi, Splinky. Matthew, I appreciate your coming to see us, says Ian. And I see what you're saying about angels. Souls in torment, etc., etc. If I'm reading you right, but you said it yourself, all we'll find now is bones. That's all there is. And if you choose to be superstitious or religious, in your case, I see that, but I can choose not to be. Now, we'll take care of the bones, and I'm happy for you to be there and watch the lot if that's what floats your boat. But I want to move the cemetery. I'm allowed to move the cemetery. And I'm going to move the cemetery. If that makes me whatever I am, then so be it. Bones don't mind where they are. If I can't change your mind, then I will make this as difficult as I possibly can for you. I need you to know that, says Father Mackey. Join the queue, Father, says Ian. I've got the RSPCA up in arms about badgers. I've got the Kent Forestry something banging on about protected trees. With you, it's the nuns. I've got to comply with EU regulations on heat emissions, on light pollution, on bathroom fittings, and 100 other things. Even though I seem to remember we voted to leave, I've got the residents bleeding out benches. I've got English Heritage telling me my bricks don't qualify as sustainable, and the cheapest cement guy in the entire south of England has just gone to prison for VAT fraud. You are not my biggest problem, Father. Not even close. Ian finally draws breath. Also, Tony died, so it's a difficult time for everyone, adds Bogdan, crossing himself. Yep, also Tony died, difficult time, agrees Ian. Father Mackey turns to Bogdan. Now he has broken his silence. And what do you think, my son, about moving the Garden of Eternal Rest? You don't think we're disturbing souls? You don't think there will be penance for this? Father, I think God watches over everything and judges everyone, says Bogdan. But I think bones is bones. That's the end of the chapter. Ooh. It's a really good book. It's a really good book. All right. That's it, you guys. That's the end. How are you enjoying it? You liking it? It's good? Would you guys maybe like to do another stream like this soon? Well, I'll have to do it to finish the book. Bye-bye. Bye, Sins. Yeah? Okay. It's good so far? Yeah? Everyone's liking it? Okay. We'll see if we can... Do you want to keep it as the rainy day ones? We can keep it as like rainy day reads. Keep it with the rain. Would be nice. I mean, I joined on the last page and but sounded great, and yes, rain is great. Okay. Okay. That sounds good. All right, let's have a squiz. Let's have a squiz and see what we've got. Okay. Let's see what we've got. I'm just gonna see if we have a beautiful friend who we can raid. I just want to see. Do you guys want to go over to some art? You want to go to art? Try and see some pretty art? Beautiful, pretty art? I think that'd be nice. Okay. Let's do it. I don't know how long they're going to be live for, though, because they've been live for almost 3 hours. But let's do that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me, you guys. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you enjoyed the rain. I'm glad you enjoyed the reading. And you spent your time with me. So, for anyone who's new here, if you haven't already, here is the Discord link. Feel free to pop that one in. Come and join my beautiful community full of sippers. They're all wonderful, wonderful, wonderful little soda cans. If you would like, here are my socials as well. The VOD will be updated onto my YouTube channel very soon. I have a few VODs that will be updating very soon. And we are going to raid a lovely, lovely person. Let me just quickly see if I can grab them up. There they are. Okay. We're going to start the raid. And here is the raid message, everyone. Everyone grab that one. And when we're ready, and we go into the raid, everyone pop that one in and be on your best behavior, please. Remember, you are a reflection of the community and of myself as well. So be nice and welcoming and loving and happy, okay?
Okay. Everyone's ready? All right. I will talk to you guys next time. I'll see you guys later, okay? Keep an eye out on my socials everywhere because there's no schedule at the moment, okay? Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye, 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 bye.